Live from Orlando, Florida, home of the Walt Disney World Speedway, the Indy Racing League is on the air with the inaugural running of the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Today, the road to Indy begins as IRL teams race for over $1 million and their place in racing history. Stay with us for the next 200 miles as wheel-to-wheel action will decide who will be the first to take the checkered flag in the new Indy Racing League Series. Today's coverage is brought to you by Aurora, proud to be the official pace car of the Indy Racing League. By Raybestos, with safety there is no compromise. Insist on Raybestos. And by Valvoline. Now, here's the radio voice of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Bob Jenkins.
Sometimes you don't have to wish upon a star for dreams to come true. It was March 11th, 1994, and the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Tony George, announced plans for a new racing series to begin in 1996. That would include the largest single-day sporting event in the world, the Indianapolis 500. 4 months later, a board of governors was appointed, and the Indy Racing League became a reality. Dream number one was realized. Today, the first race of that series will be conducted. In January of 1995, plans were announced for a new racing facility at America's #1 vacation destination, Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Ground was broken last June. On November 28th, the 1-mile tri-oval located just inside the gates to the Magic Kingdom was dedicated, and the second dream came true. As the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway presented by Aurora gets ready for the green flag, another dream is becoming a reality. A dream for drivers to ascend to the top of open-wheel motorsports and drive an Indianapolis car, a chance they may not have gotten otherwise without the Indy Racing League. The dreams are a memory. The eyes of the racing world are opening today to a new era in motorsports, the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway, presented by Aurora. And the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network welcomes you to this beautiful facility and a partly sunny but warm day in Orlando. I'm Bob Jenkins, and Gary Lee, Donald Davidson, Mike King, and Vince Welsh will be joining me this afternoon to describe the events during this inaugural event of the Indy Racing League. This facility seats a little over 50,000, and every single seat is filled for this event. Even the practice sessions on Thursday and the qualification period on Friday saw tremendous crowds gather to watch history in the making. Before the qualifying started, Eliseo Salazar, a Chilean driver who finished 4th at the Indianapolis 500 last year, crashed. He suffered a leg wound. 20 cars qualified for the field, led by Buddy Lazier at 181.388 miles an hour. Then yesterday, during the final practice session, 2 other crashes damaged cars. Scott Brayton was involved in a one-car incident. His car suffered minor damage and has been repaired. But those of Eddie Cheever and Richie Hearn, who had qualified second fastest, were damaged beyond repair. Cheever has gone to a backup car, and Hearn has secured a car from Pagan Racing. Both will start from the back of the pack this afternoon. And an update now on the condition of Salazar. He is in Orlando Regional Medical Center. He is in stable condition, had a good night, and his post-operative surgery recovery is described as good. Eliseo told doctors and other members of his racing team today that he's looking forward to Phoenix, the second race on the Indy Racing League schedule, March 24th.
Presenting the automotive equivalent of a bull market. It has a 32-valve.
I'm Bob Jenkins, back at Walt Disney World Speedway in Orlando, Florida, getting set for the green flag of the Indy 200 presented by Aurora. Green flag is scheduled to drop about 12:40 this afternoon. Let's go down pit side and talk with the pole sitter for this year's event, second-generation driver Buddy Lazier. With him is Mike King.
Buddy Lazier made history yesterday as the Indy Racing League's first pole sitter. Are you ready to make history today as the league's first winner?
Oh, sure, absolutely ready. It's still, obviously, it's going to be a long, long day, and there's so many elements to this race. And we really don't know what the track's going to do. Nobody's run a race here. Obviously, on short ovals, the racetrack changes a couple of times, and it's a matter of how fast you can respond to those changes, you know, as to whether or not you can stay fast through the whole race and maintain a good pace.
As far as your crew, certainly pit stops could play a huge role in today's race. You have an experienced crew. I know you have to be very comfortable with that.
Oh yeah, very, very comfortable with the crew. They're all based there in Indianapolis, and because this series has so much Indianapolis background at this point, they're awfully happy to be where they are.
Buddy, a great sense of camaraderie down here in the racing community. As far as the Indy Racing League competitors, you have had so many guys come up to you and wish you good luck, both former, past, and present drivers.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, there's an awful lot of people here that have a lot of experience, and so the series does. I mean, it's got some impact. It really does. There's an enormous crowd here, which is exciting, and you know, we're watching the weather very carefully to see what it's going to do. It looks like it's going to start to get overcast and cool down, and so you know, it's hard to focus on a lot of the attention and a lot of things that happen around a race when you're getting ready to race. You just focus on the event.
Before we let you go, if everything goes as planned, when should we look for you your first scheduled stop today?
I think we have a pit window somewhere between about 36 laps in, and so all the way up until, I don't know, somewhere thereafter. So it could be as early as around 40.
He's the pole sitter for the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway, Buddy Lazier.
Qualifying yesterday at 181.388 miles an hour in his Himmelgarn Racing Delta Fawcett 95 Reynard Ford Cosworth. Joining me in the booth today is Gary Lee, who will be anchoring a couple of the races on the Indy Racing League schedule this year. Gary, it's good to have you with us, and we got a great event coming up here in just a few moments.
Thanks, Bob. Indeed we do. What a great facility, but what do we expect from the folks at Disney? In fact, this facility was built on 41 wooded acres to the south of the parking lot for the Magic Kingdom. In fact, we can look off Turn 2 and see the center focal point of Epcot Center, Planet Earth. The track actually has been called a combination of Pocono as a tri-oval, Phoenix with just a dose of Nazareth. It is a 1-mile tri-oval. The first turn is banked 10 degrees. This is the tightest turn of the three. In fact, the drivers say they will pick up more G-load in turn 1 than any other turn on any racetrack that they'll ever run. They pick up about 4.5 Gs in the cockpit in turn 1. The back straightaway going from turn 1 to turn 2 is actually the longest. It measures just over 1,000 feet. There's a general rise up to turn 2. The second corner is actually banked at 8.5 degrees. They come off the banking, downhill just a bit, and then back uphill. The climb into turn 3, which is banked some 7 degrees, and then down this main straightaway. The track is only 50 to 60 feet wide. That has been a concern, Bob, for some of the drivers. Traffic will be a problem. The drivers will have to exercise patience.
Starting 10th today in this event, a former pole sitter at the Indianapolis 500, Scott Brayton. Vince Welsh is with him.
Thanks very much, Bob. And Scott, you had a little scare yesterday at the tail end of practice. Brushed the wall a little bit. Any damage, and how do you feel?
Well, the car is really good, and I just had there's some stuff on the track, and I hung a wheel off the inside, being that there's grass there. Kind of caught me out, and I spun it. Unfortunately, it didn't hurt the car severely. I bent an upper left-hand wishbone, but they replaced it, and the car came right back in. And I feel real confident. I think we're going to have a good car for the race today.
How about the atmosphere in general? A great turnout today in the debut event for the Indy Racing League.
Well, I think, I mean, it's certainly been quite an event so far. I mean, all the music and the band and all the festivities that are going on, and the stands are filled. And I've never been at a racetrack that was a mile oval that had really this much awareness, and the media and fans and everything going on. I'm looking forward to the race.
Gary Lee was just talking about the track in general. Do you enjoy the oval and the different elevations?
Well, it's certainly a challenging racetrack, and I've enjoyed running here. It's one that you know can give you a little bit false sense of security, where you're running real hard, and then it gets away from you. And so, guys are going to have to really be cautious and pay attention, and, myself included, we're going to have to try to run a good race. And with nobody having really any racetrack activity here to kind of, have any history, it's new for all of us.
Thanks, Scott. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Scott Brayton for Team Menard, starting on the outside of row 5. Bob?
And at the other end of the pit area, Mike King standing by with the car owner of the pole-sitting car, Ron Himmelgarn.
Ron Himmelgarn has 2 cars in this race. Of course, the pole-sitting Buddy Lazier and Stefan Gregoire. Ron, I know this is exactly where you want to be, right here on the front row on the inside spot. A great place to be in this race.
Well, it's exactly what we set out this year to do, to get to pole and to win this race. We're out to win the championship, and we're really excited about the IRL. It shows how good we are and how good Buddy Lazier is, and we just think it's going to be an outstanding program.
Just a moment ago, Vince Welch was talking about the atmosphere here today. Really an incredible energy-charged atmosphere for this first race.
Well, you know, I've been to a lot of races over the years from coast to coast, and this is one of the best IndyCar crowds I've seen, and the spectacle here with all the things that they're doing, it's fantastic. It's one of the best I've seen.
You've got to split your time today between 2 drivers. Of course, you'll concentrate on Buddy Lazier, but Stefan Gregoire also did a good, solid job in qualifying.
He really did. I mean, he's going to run this race to finish it, and he's learning a little bit about short ovals. He's never run on a short oval before, but we've tested, and he's done very well, and he's exactly where we want, sort of mid-pack, and I think he's just going to run all day and have a real safe race, and obviously we're going to concentrate on Buddy and win this one.
Ron Himmelgarn, the team owner, he's got the car on the pole, and he's looking forward to this race. Now let's go to Vince Welch. He's standing by with Richie Hearn.
Thanks very much, Mike. And Richie standing here having a few words with Eddie Cheever before they introduce the drivers, and kind of an interesting combination in itself since the accident between the two of you yesterday, and you had to get a new car, and you didn't even think you were going to be able to be in this race. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it came about late in the evening, and Pagan Racing let me use their spare car, which I appreciate everything they've done, and the crew's worked all night to get me ready, and we're going to see what happens.
Considering the late afternoon accident, you and Eddie Cheever both now starting in the back row. You were supposed to start up front. How does that affect your psyche?
Well, it's going to change my race strategy a little bit. I'm going to take my time. It's going to be a lot longer to get up to the front, but my main goal is just to finish the race.
How do you feel right now, Richie? A little intimidated at all?
Maybe, not really, but just a little nervous because it's my first race, but what happened yesterday makes it even worse.
Did you get any sleep last night?
I got a little bit.
Thanks, Richie. Good luck to you. Richie Hearn, he'll be starting in the back row alongside Eddie Cheever.
Well, I think if you walk up and down the pit area this morning and talk to many of these drivers, especially those who are rookies and not participated in Indy racing before, you will find that many of them didn't sleep very much last night. That was Richie Hearn from Canyon Country, California, who will start 19th on the back row here today, despite the fact that he was second fastest qualifier at 180.905.
Race fans, the Indy Racing League is off to a fast start with the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Get on board with racing's newest league, the Indy Racing League, with all new officially licensed and local merchandise. The 1996 catalog features a variety of apparel and collectibles from the Indy Racing League and the always popular Indy 500, along with select items for you Brickyard 400 fans. Call now and receive absolutely free your 1996 catalog. Operators are standing by. Call 1-800-955-INDY. 1-800-955-INDY.
Have you ever wondered what happens to the used oil and other fluids after the race? The tracking teams have Safety Clean here to recycle all the waste fluids. But they're not the only ones doing their part. Auto repair shops, printers, hospitals, and thousands of other businesses recycle with Safety Clean. You can identify them by the We Care sign in their window. They're good people to do business with. Safety Clean is the official environmental and recycling service of the Indy Racing League.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Welcome back to Walt Disney World Speedway in Orlando, Florida, getting set for the start of the Indy 200 presented by Aurora. We go down to Mike King once again, who's with the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the founder of the Indy Racing League, Tony George.
Of course, Tony George is also the founder of the Indy Racing League. Tony, 1 year ago, this was just a dream. Today it's a reality. I know you have to be very excited about this first race.
Yeah, it's a dream that a lot of folks shared, and through a lot of hard work, we finally made it, and we're getting ready to drop the green. And it's living up and maybe exceeding all of our expectations, living up to and exceeding.
Any way to describe the emotion of getting set to see this thing finally take off?
Well, I'm starting to, really get the kind of sensation that you get when you're witnessing something historic, and I think there's potential for a tremendous amount of tradition to be built right here, and we're just happy as heck to have this thing as our inaugural event.
He's the Indy Racing League founder, Tony George.
And Tony, with thousands of other people here anticipating the green flag at about 12:40 this afternoon. Vince Welch is standing by with another competitor in today's race.
1992 Indy 500 pole sitter Roberto Guerrero, and you'll be on the outside of row one because of the fact of the accident, and Richie Hearn goes to the back. Does it change your strategy at the start any, Roberto?
Not really. It's the same. I mean, it's going to be a very tough race to stay out of trouble, and I think we all have to kind of look after each other for a while. In fact, look after each other for the whole race. It's the passing is going to be very difficult, and it's the goal really has to be to try and bring it home.
A particular place on the track that you'll look for to pass?
You tell me. I don't know. There's really no logical place, so we'll have to find them out as we race, I guess.
How about the equipment? Are you confident that you're going to be in this for the duration and have an opportunity to win this race?
Let's hope so. I think we have everything under control, so I think we have a good chance.
How about the atmosphere here in the debut race for the Indy Racing League?
It's been great. I mean, just looking at the stands, and the Disney people are doing a wonderful job. I think the IRL series has a lot of future, and hopefully it's here to stay.
Thank you, Roberto. Roberto Guerrero, he'll start on the outside of row one for the Indy 200. Bob?
Qualifying at 178.130 in yesterday's qualification sessions. Another official of the Indy Racing League and the United States Auto Club standing by with Mike.
Kerry Akajanian, Executive Vice President of USAC, overseeing sanctioning for the Indy Racing League. A very exciting day for everyone concerned.
Yeah, it just about brings you to tears. It's such an exciting time. I can't believe the grandstands are full. A beautiful day and a great field of cars. It's a marvelous sight.
We've remarked with some of the drivers and car owners about the incredible camaraderie. The explanation, it's really dumbfounding. This is something I have not seen in a long time.
Well, you know, I've heard that from a lot of the car owners and the drivers, and everybody's trying to help each other because they know we're doing the right thing. I've never seen such camaraderie and such kinship. Everybody's been helping each other. It's fantastic. We will be so successful because of this.
Well, standing right next to Kerry Akajanian is a business partner of his. They now own a Busch team together. Stevie Reeves, their driver. John Andretti, certainly a Winston Cup standout now, but no stranger to these cars. Any way of reworking that Winston Cup deal so you can participate?
Well, I'll tell you, I love racing, and I hate missing opportunities, especially being race cars. And but this is one that I'm going to have to go over. But I still want to get back and do the Indianapolis 500. It's still an important race to me, but the Winston Cup racing is really important to me now, and it's really our life. My wife Nancy and my kids have moved down to North Carolina for part of the year, and so our commitment's big down there. But I support Kerry in everything he does, and he's done me, and I truly believe in what he believes in, and so I like I like being here. It's exciting being around Disney and in a race.
Well, John Andretti will be a spectator today, but in 2 weeks at Daytona, we'll look for him to take the checkered flag. John, thanks an awful lot.
Thank you.
Okay, John Andretti. Now let's go to Vince Welch.
I'm with Ari Leyendijk as he's getting ready to get into the car, and Ari, maybe just some initial thoughts as you guys get ready and go here.
I'm just concentrating right now, so thank you.
Ari getting ready to get into the car, and as he said, concentrating and trying to get all his focus on the task ahead of going 200 miles at the debut race for the Indy 200.
Certainly one of the favorites going into this event. Leyendijk, of course, a former winner at the Indianapolis 500, starting third today in the Jonathan Byrd's Cafeteria of Bryant Heating and Cooling. 94.5, Reynard Ford. Down below us, the driver introductions are going on, and the drivers are beginning to make their way to their cars for the start of this race, scheduled in about 20 minutes. Donald Davidson is going to be with us throughout the broadcast today. And Donald, as you get ready to look at the start of this race, tell us how we got here.
How we got here, Bob, we've got to go back about 90 years. Championship racing, as we know it, actually goes back to right after the turn of the century, and the AAA used to sanction automobile races for production cars that actually were what the public could buy. The importance of the drivers was secondary. In the 1920s, racing started to become very sophisticated. They started to get to supercharged engines. The companies that were building cars were no longer the companies that were building passenger cars. The tracks were board tracks, steeply banked super speedways. Then came the Depression, and it was too expensive to to keep those up. They went to dirt track racing. They tried production-based engines again. In 1950, with most of the races on dirt tracks, they began to run on paved ovals. Then in the early 1960s, the rear engine cars came in. Road courses, which hadn't been used in many years for championship racing, began to be employed. In 1971, dirt track racing was dropped completely from the championship schedule, and a new type of car owner started to come in. And the drivers began to come from Europe. There was a new trend where drivers would raise their own sponsorship. And in 1979, championship auto racing teams was formed, and there was a split up of the championship division. Now things are very different. It's become very expensive. Engine lease programs. It's almost impossible for a new driver in the United States to go to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and that's why we are where we are today. That's it in a nutshell. What's wonderful about this is that there are 8 Indianapolis 500 winners here today. We could run through all of them, but I'll just tell you one, Bob. I bet you didn't know. About 5 rows down here in front, one of your heroes, Jim Rathman, winner of the 1960 500, is sitting right down here.
The very first 500 that I attended back in 1960. Quickly, let's go to the pits. Vince Welch.
Thank you very much, Bob. I'm standing by with Foyt's 4-time Indy 500 winner A.J. Foyt, running 3 drivers today, Davey Hamilton, Scott Sharp, and Mike Groff. Any particular instructions that you gave the 3 before we came out this morning?
All I give them, we had a meeting. I told them keep their nose clean. The race is 200 miles. It's not won the first 100, not won the first lap. So I said, let's try to be there at the end of the day, and I think we'll be right there with all the rest of the guys.
Is that what the experienced drivers, the veteran drivers, have tried to express maybe most prominently, is be careful at the start and the fact that it does go 200 miles. Make sure that nothing happens here in turn 1.
Well, that's quite true. That's what Al Unser Sr. and I was sitting there talking about, and I had Al even talk to the boys himself, and he kind of scolded them, so I think they're all ready and they understand what we was talking about.
AJ, you're a key player in this Indy Racing League series. Surprised, maybe even pleasantly surprised that the turnout and the festivities at such a wonderful event here in the race atmosphere?
Well, I'd say it's a little bit bigger turnout than I expected, but you know, anytime the Holmans or Indianapolis Motor Speedway and Walt Disney out here at Disney World is going to do something, it's going to be first class. And so what else could you expect? Nothing but this, because they're first class people, and I'm just glad for them, also myself, to look at this big crowd, beautiful facility that they built within less than a year.
AJ, thank you very much. Good luck. AJ Foyt running 3 cars today, and we'll go back upstairs to Bob Jenkins.
And we're about 15 and a half minutes away from the green flag in the Indy 200 presented by Aurora.
When it's time to make the choice for your family and your car, you don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes.
Indy Racing League fans, here is your chance to be a part of the 1997 Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. It's the ultimate fairy tale. Exciting Indy Racing League action and Walt Disney World. Be there for the return of the Indy Racing League in sunny Orlando, Florida. Stay at one of Disney's magical resort hotels with free transportation to and from the race. Imagine joining thousands of race fans in the heart of Disney's 8 theme and water parks. You can have it all. January 25, 1997. The Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Call 1-800-822-INDY for your ticket order form. 1-800-822-INDY.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. I'm Bob Jenkins. We are back live at Walt Disney World Speedway in Orlando, Florida, where the green flag is about 14 minutes from right now. We go back down to one of our pit reporters for the day, Mike King.
Well, I'm sitting here with Kevin Forbes. He is the chief engineer at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but for the past 15 months, his second address and almost primary address has been Orlando, Florida, specifically the Walt Disney World Speedway. Kevin, this is your track. You designed it, and I know this is an exciting moment for you to finally see racing take place with the Indianapolis type cars.
Mike, it's a strange mixture of emotions right now. I'm very tired. I'm worn out, but I'm so excited. I can't hardly describe it. I designed this track, but this is our track. This is the spectators' track. This is the racers' track. this is the IRL's track, and you can't imagine the feeling you get to look at history right before your eyes being made. And as I said, it's very difficult to describe the emotions right now.
There has seemingly been very few problems with this racing surface. Whatever you did, apparently you did it right.
I tell you, if nothing else, God wanted this facility to be a success, and I think you're going to see today one of the most exciting, successful, competitive, exciting, entertaining races that we could ever hope for.
Kevin Forbes, the man who designed the 1 mile oval, tri-oval if you will, the Walt Disney World Speedway. And if the name Forbes sounds familiar, well, it could be because his father, Bob, was a member of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway radio network for almost 3 decades. Bob?
Indeed he was, and a very valuable member of the radio network. Let's go over now the starting lineup for today's race. On the pole in car number 91 from Vail, Colorado, in the Hilmagarn Racing Delta Fawcett 95 Reynard Ford Cosworth, qualifying at 181.388, is Buddy Lazier. Outside the front row, car number 21 from San Juan Capistrano, California, Roberto Guerrero, in the Wave 4 Johnny Lightning 94 Reynard Ford, qualifying at 178.130. In the second row, car number 5, Ari Lyondike from Scottsdale, Arizona, in the Jonathan Bird's Cafeteria, Brian Heating and Cooling 94.5 Reynard Ford Cosworth. Outside the second row, car number 41, Scott Sharp from East Norwalk, Connecticut, in the A.J. Foyt Enterprises 95 Lola Ford. The speed that he qualified at yesterday, 176.211. Row number 3, car number 12, Buzz Calkins from Denver, Colorado, in the Bradley Food Mart Total Petroleum MBNA Logo Athletic 95 Reynard Ford Cosworth, 175.464. Outside of the third row, from Boise, Idaho, driving the A.J. Foyt Enterprises 95 Lola Ford Cosworth, qualifying at 175.293, is Davey Hamilton from Boise, Idaho, car number 14. The fourth row, from Rushville, Indiana, driving car number 20, Tony Stewart. The car is the Quaker State Glidden 95 Lola Menard, qualifying at 174.554. Outside of the fourth row, Stan Wattles from Seawalls Point, Florida, car number 17, the Lee Miller racing car, the 94 Lola Ford, qualifying at 173.477. In the fifth row, car number 9, Stefan Gregoire from Vittel, France, in the Pierre Quimus SG Motorsports 95 Reynard Ford Cosworth. The car number is 9. In the fifth row, outside, Scott Brayton, car number 2, the Glidden 95 Lola Menard, 173.185. He hails from Coldwater, Michigan. The sixth row is Lynn St. James from Daytona Beach, Florida, driving car number 90, the Lifetime Channel Maxi Lube Lola Ford Cosworth, qualifying at 171.111. The outside of the sixth row, Mike Groff from Los Angeles, California, in the number 11 A.J. Foyt Enterprises 95 Lola Ford Cosworth, qualifying at 170.657. The seventh row, Robbie Buell from Detroit, Michigan, in car number 54, the Beck Motorsports Zuni 94 Reynard Ford Cosworth, 170.560. And on the outside of the seventh row is Michele Alboreto from Monte Carlo, Monaco, driving car number 33, the Alta Fresh Springwater Perry Ellis Lola Ford Cosworth, qualified at 170.446. The eighth row consists of Johnny O'Connell from Chandler, Arizona, car number 75, the Ultimate Energy, Optima Batteries MBNA 95 Reynard Ford Cosworth, 167.738. On the outside of the eighth row, in the PDM automatic sprinkler system, car number 18, a 93 Lola Ford Cosworth, qualifying at 160.242, is John Paul Jr. from West Palm Beach, Florida. The ninth row, veteran Indy driver Johnny Parsons from Indianapolis in the Lickite Firestone 93 Lola Menard, qualifying at 153.512. The car number is 16. His partner in row number 9 will be David Kudrave, car number 25, the Dare Body Lines 93 Lola Buick, 146.353. Dave hails from La Canada, California. And in the last row, the two drivers who were involved in the crash in the final practice session yesterday and had to go to backup cars. Richie Hearn, car number 4, the Ralph's Food for Less, Della Penna Motorsports, 95 Reynard Ford Cosworth. His qualification speed was 180.905. And starting last will be Eddie Cheever in car number 3. The Quaker State 95 Lola Maynard, 173.888 was his qualifying speed. Eddie, of course, hails from Aspen, Colorado. We have 7 drivers that are going to be starting the race on Firestone tires. The others are on Goodyear.
Bob, we also have 8 Renard chassis, 12 are Lolas. The power plants, we have 15 Cosworths, 4 Menard V6s, and 1 Buick. So some diversity in the chassis and the engine combinations.
Back down to Mike King for another interview.
Yeah, we've got John Menard. John, of course, 3 drivers in today's race, and I know it's very unfortunate what happened to Eddie, the fact that he has to go to the back of the pack, but still in all, you have 3 very good chances to win this race today.
Yeah, I just walked back to the back where Eddie was. That's a long ways back, but Eddie's careful, and, you know, he kind of had an adjustment of his thinking yesterday there in a rapid hurry, so I think he'll be very, very careful coming up through the pack, and our other guys are kind of sitting in positions where they could come to the front pretty fast. Tony, I'm especially happy about where he's qualified, and his whole demeanor is such that I think Tony might just keep his head down and emerge towards the end of the race as a real contender here.
Of course, we're talking about 24-year-old Tony Stewart, who is making his Indianapolis type car debut here today. How's he come along? Do you feel comfortable with the progress he has made?
Yeah, I feel very comfortable with Tony. Listens very well. He's a quick learner. Is extremely smooth in the car, and these Indy cars really need smoothness to drive them. It's just very important to be smooth.
John, when should we look for your cars to make their first stop today?
Well, we figure we can get probably somewhere around 60-some laps of green running, so if there's no yellows, it'd be probably in the early 60s. Otherwise, if there's a yellow, we'll maybe try to extend that. But if there's a yellow around in the 40s or high 30s, we'll probably come in anyway.
Scott Brayton, Eddie Cheever, and Tony Stewart will start today for Team Menard.
The green flag for the Indy 200 presented by Aurora is less than 10 minutes away.
The legend begins as Major League Auto Racing comes to the entertainment capital of the world, and you're invited to the grand opening celebration. Be a part of auto racing history as Las Vegas Motor Speedway proudly presents its inaugural event, the Las Vegas 500, for the Indy Racing League on Sunday, September 15th. See the cars and stars of the all-new Indy Racing League at the world's premier motorsports entertainment complex. Tickets go on sale March 1st. Phone 702-644-4444 for ticket info. Sunday, September 15th. Don't miss the Indy Racing League at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
When you say the word environmentalist, race car driver doesn't pop into most people's minds. But the track here and the race teams recycle all their used oil, fuel, engine coolant, and filters with Safety Clean. Make sure you do your part. Patronize businesses that recycle their waste fluids. You can tell who they are by the sign in their window that says, "We care." That sign means that, like over 70 race teams, these businesses are recycling with Safety Clean, the official environmental and recycling service of the Indy Racing League.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Back on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway radio network for live broadcast coverage of the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway presented by Aurora. Rebroadcast or use of the information and descriptions contained in this broadcast without the written consent of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway radio network is strictly prohibited. We're glad you could join us today, and we'll have coverage, of course, of the Phoenix 200 on March the 24th, the Indianapolis 500 on May 26th, and then that ends the 1996 racing season. The 96-97 Indy Racing League season begins with the True Value 200 at New Hampshire International Speedway on August the 18th, and then the Las Vegas 500-kilometer race on September the 15th.
Just a kaleidoscope of sound and color here, Bob, as we look down from about 7 stories in the air. The cars, unlike the Indianapolis 500, are actually stationed in the pit area. They'll pull out from the pit area momentarily. We talked about Tony Stewart being the only driver ever to win a midget, sprint, and Silver Crown title United States Auto Club competition in the same season. A lot of the drivers have complained about the stress on the neck, upper body on this racetrack with the G-loads. He said, hey, these guys have never driven Winchester in a midget. I drive that all the time. I'm used to it. We're expecting big things from this youngster from Rushville, Indiana.
Well, we heard a report from the pit area just a few moments ago that Tony is visibly nervous. He is almost physically shaking. Said he got about 45 minutes of sleep last night. But I have a feeling, Gary, as about any race driver will tell you, that once he gets in that race car, the engine is fired and pulls away, the butterflies go away, and he concentrates on the job at hand.
The worst time of race day for a race driver is 1 hour before the race. Once the driver's in the cockpit, the helmet is on, he can settle into his world, focus on what's at hand, and I'm sure he's not quite as nervous now as he was about 10 or 15 minutes ago. And once they drop that green flag, he will not be nervous at all.
We will stand by here in just a few moments for the command to start engines. By the way, we will be joining the ABC television network and Jack Arute for the Gentlemen Start Your Engines command. And then after the event is over, we will join him for the Victory Lane celebration and the interview with the winner of the inaugural Indy Racing League event. One thing that we must keep our eyes to the sky for is rain. It has clouded up considerably in the last half hour or so. The forecast is for a 50% chance of rain this afternoon, but most of the showers in Florida come in the late afternoon when the humidity builds up, so hopefully we can get this race in the next 2 hours, and we'll have no interruption of rain.
Every day after practice, these drivers have had meetings, Bob, and the officials with the Indy Racing League have been preaching one thing, actually three things: patience, patience, patience. Scott Sharp said a 200-lap race on this particular racetrack is like an endurance run. Every race driver is told in a driver's meeting, you cannot win the race on the first turn of the first lap. Sometimes they try it, but obviously this is a long race. We also have to remember that two of the faster guys, in fact, Richie Hearn was quick in practice all week. He qualified second fast yesterday, had to go at the back of the pack with a backup car. So he will have a fast driver starting in the back row. Eddie Cheever, an experienced driver from Formula One and IndyCar racing, also starting at the back. So they have to be very patient picking their way through traffic. And probably within the first 25 laps, we'll see heavy traffic with the leaders going through some back markers.
Well, today's Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway by Aurora is being heard around the world via the Indianapolis Motor Speedway radio network. We welcome to the network WIBC in Indianapolis, WNDB in Daytona Beach, Florida, KCRG in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and WZON in Bangor, Maine. Just one of several stations on the network today, and we're also being heard on the Armed Forces Radio Network and LaCie Broadcasting Network, both helping to carry Indy Racing League action to hundreds of thousands of listeners around the world. The command to start engine just moments away. This is a 200-lap race, and Gary, we've heard a couple of ideas as to how many laps they will have to go before coming in for a pit stop. Is this going to be a 2, 3, maybe a 4-stop race?
2 ideally. Obviously, if we have an early yellow, some of the teams will come in, check the fuel mileage at that point. They didn't really have a chance late in the afternoon yesterday to run some mileage test on their fuel load. So they'll do that before the first pit stop. If we have a yellow, they will come in early. I think probably the pit window that we heard after about 55 laps. This will truly be, without significant yellows, a 2-stop race.
Here at Walt Disney World Speedway, the crowd is on its feet anticipating the command to start engines, and in just a moment we will have that command and off racing before very long, Donald.
Bob, just a quick note here that came to my attention yesterday, the fact that the pace car is the Aurora, and we're at Walt Disney World. The Magic Castle is actually the Sleeping Beauty's castle. The name of the Sleeping Beauty is Princess Aurora.
Well, let's go down to Jack Arute, who is just about ready for the command to start engines. We anticipate that in just a moment. Here's Jack Arute from ABC with the command.
Ladies and gentlemen, to officially start the inaugural running of the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World, I would like to introduce the Vice Chairman of the Board of the Walt Disney Company, Roy E. Disney.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Let's go. Right here. Go.
20 cars have fired up on pit road, getting ready to go on to the 1-mile tri-oval here at Walt Disney World Speedway for a couple of warm-up laps, and then the green flag that will send them on the way, beginning this event and the Indy Racing League.
Talk a lot about the pit strategy. The guys that are also nervous besides the drivers are the crew members. Many of these guys have never, ever had a pit stop. So they've been practicing changing tires, refueling the cars. That will be interesting because the general consensus is the best team in the pit will win this race.
That's a very good point, something that you must think of. We can talk about how fast the cars on the racetrack are, but many people are saying that this race is going to be won and lost in the pit area. The pace car, the Aurora pace car, begins to pull away. The first two rows are going. Row number 3, 4, 5, everybody moving at this point. Row 6, 7, 8, 9, everybody moving except Richie Hearn, and now his car fires from the back of the pack, and everybody is moving, pulling out onto the racetrack, and the tension begins to mount here as the race is just a few moments away from the green flag.
What a glorious view. Over 50,000 fans now on their seat. The cars now headed down what they call the mid-straightaway. It's over 1,000 feet in length, the longest straight stretch of this racetrack, and they're in formation now behind the Aurora by Oldsmobile, driven by three-time Indianapolis 500 champion Johnny Rutherford. Oh, what a beautiful sight. This actually had been a wooded field. They've cut down all but probably 60 trees. The trees are not in bloom, so we have a great view down that mid-stretch into turn 2.
Well, we were here before this track took shape. We saw the outline of it back in June of 1995. Then we came here for the dedication in November. Everything was here and in place except the grandstands. And believe me, this place looks a lot different now with all of the grandstands here on the main straightaway, also in turn 3 and around turn number 1. 50,000 plus fans are here. Everybody on his feet waving to the crowd and to the teams as they come down. The cars on the racetrack. There's the first warm-up lap. And everybody scuffing in the tires, getting the engines up to heat before we go racing.
First row in formation, the purple number 91 of Buddy Lazier, the second generation driver. His dad, Bob, a veteran of the Indianapolis 500, was here to see Buddy qualify for the pole position yesterday alongside the guy who owns the 1 and 4 lap track records at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Roberto Guerrero. And he starts outside row 1, the white number 21. Once again, the car's somewhat ragged now as they work off the banking of turn 1. But in another lap, they'll be in formation behind that Aurora pace car driven by Johnny Rutherford.
On the front row, Buddy Lazier and Roberto Guerrero. The second row, Ari Lyondike and Scott Sharp. The third row, Buzz Calkins and Davey Hamilton. Row number 4, Tony Stewart and Stan Wattles. The fifth row, Stefan Gregoire and Scott Brayton. Row number 6, Lynn St. James and Mike Groff. The seventh row, Robbie Buell and Michele Alboreto. The eighth row, Johnny O'Connell and John Paul Jr. Row number 9, Johnny Parsons and David Kudrave. And in row number 10, Richie Hearn and Eddie Cheever. The field comes by one more time with the pace car still leading them down. And we should be getting the green flag in a couple of more laps.
Now, Dwayne Sweeney, the official flagman for all the Indy Racing League events, standing there in the flag stand about 30 feet above the start-finish line with the yellow flag in hand, will go at least 2 more laps. They're trailing at the back of the pack, the brightly colored number 3 of Eddie Cheever, the Quaker State entry. That's that neon green that we have become so familiar with out of the Menard stable. Those cars are so easy to see on any racetrack, but he is lagging behind. That is a backup. That is the 95 Lola Menard. They're on Goodyear tires. He was involved in that crash, as we've documented earlier, with Eddie Hearn in that final warm-up session as they were working on race day setups yesterday. So both cars had to be basically junked, and they went to their backup cars. Only Richie Hearn didn't have a backup car, and they had to secure the backup from Pagan Racing.
Well, the field now coming around for the final time. They're getting the 1 lap to go signal, and in just a moment or two, the green flag will be dropped.
Gary, I'm proud of you with your great interest in history. You made a slip there. You said Eddie Hearn, the great 1923 champion and runner-up in 1919. I love you for it.
Now we know how which age category, Gary.
I wasn't there for that race, but maybe you were.
All right,
Richie Hearn, of course, referring to the Atlantic champion from 1 year ago, but he has been really with this team now. This is the 3rd season, so they have really gelled and should be some force to be reckoned with yet this season in the Indy Racing League.
All right, now the field begins to tighten up. The pace has slowed dramatically as Johnny Rutherford in the pace car is well out ahead of the field itself. Buddy Lazier is apparently going to have a relatively slow start here. He and Roberto Guerrero are side by side out there in row number 1, and the rest of the field now beginning to form in behind the rows of 2. Buddy Lazier, the pole sitter for this race, now begins to speed up just a little bit as he goes through turn number 2 and through the short chute. They come on to turn number 3, anticipating a green, and the green is out. The Indy 200 is underway. Lazier with a nice jump on the rest of the field, and he has the lead going into turn number 1. Ari Leyendijk has jumped into second position. Guerrero is third. Everybody's through the first turn okay. Headed to turn number 2.
The banking 8.5 degrees out of turn 2, about a 10-car length lead now for the purple number 91 of Buddy Lazier. A good start for Ari Leyendijk. He begins to close in second. Third place is Guerrero in the 21 car, then Scott Sharp.
Got a 6 or 7 car length advantage now for Buddy Lazier. He has the distinction of leading the very first lap of an Indy Racing League event. They're already in turn number 3, about to complete another circuit with Lazier still leading in the field. Relatively strung out now at this point as Eddie Cheever begins to move up from the rear of the pack. He's already passed 2 cars.
Actually, now he's gone past the 3rd car, so he moves past John Paul up 3 positions now, and that gap is now closing in. Ari Leyendijk, who had to go to a backup car for qualifying yesterday. They scrapped their primary car on Thursday, went to the backup, picked up a little speed, qualified to start 3rd, and he now is closing in on your leader. Leyendijk, of course, the winner of the fastest Indy 500 ever a few years ago, 1990. He has the experience, and right now he is closing in on the youngster Buddy Lazier. Running 3rd, about 7 car lengths back, is still Guerrero. Then a big gap back to 4th place. Scott Sharp is still running in 4th position.
And in 5th position is Buzz Hawkins as another lap is completed, and the leader of the race, Lazier, is coming up to lap one of the slower cars out there.
By the way, Trey, I believe the car is being lapped, number 25.
Richie Hearn, who started from the back row, second fastest qualifier, also moving up nicely. He has passed 6 cars here in the first few laps. You're listening to live coverage of the Indy 200 presented by Aurora.
Areas, walnut trim and CD stereo, a combination of luxury and performance found only in cars costing thousands more. The new Aurora by Oldsmobile could be just the boost the market is looking for. Aurora, an American dream. Test drive the Aurora today at your authorized Oldsmobile retailer and see what happens when you demand better.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Back at the Walt Disney World Speedway, 10 laps have been completed here, and Buddy Lazier has a less than a second lead over Ari Leyendijk, with Roberto Guerrero running in 3rd place. In 4th place is the number 41 car of Scott Sharp.
Going down the backstretch, we're seeing what happens with traffic. Right now, your leader is a battle for the lead in the banking of turn 2 off the corner. Leyendijk get close right up behind Lazier in heavy traffic, so we can see what traffic impact will have on this event today. It's very difficult when you get on the throttle from behind somebody. The chassis becomes very unsettled. At that time, because of traffic, Leyendijk closed in but could not make the pass. He stuck the nose under Lazier down in turn 2, but as soon as Lazier got clear off the corner, the gap opened up again.
Already a car out of the race. Here's Mike King.
It was a short day for Bill Tempero, and David Krugrave's already in. I saw you guys looking at the rear end of the car. What was the problem?
Right on the pace lap, he radioed in the rear end of the start. Felt it like it was starting to seize up, and it just finally did. And he just popped it out of gear and got it in. But if everything else was okay, we just got to get him another day, get him a Phoenix.
Okay, so a short day for Bill Tempero and his driver, David Kudrave.
1 car out of the race, and so 19 are left to do battle here at Walt Disney World Speedway. It's still Buddy Lazier with now a second lead over Ari Leyendijk.
That battle continues up in front, but already we're seeing the lapping process. They work into turn 3 off the corner, about a third of a straightaway advantage right now for Buddy Lazier. He is led from the opening green. Another car is headed for the pit area. This looks to be Scott Brayton. Remember, Brayton had to repair that car after the damage done during that last practice session yesterday, and Brayton is in the pit area.
Indeed he is. Scott Brayton comes in as the crew goes to work on the car. It appears to be a normal routine pit stop. They are changing rubber on the car, but it can't possibly be a routine pit stop this early. Mike, what's the situation?
Well, you're exactly right. There does not appear to be anything abnormal about this stop other than the fact that it is very, very early. Scott is in. We've got the clock on him. Fuel, tires, and he is rolling in 21 seconds. We'll have to check with John Menard.
Yeah, check and see exactly why he came in so early. I don't think that has anything to do with pit strategy. He obviously had a problem and wanted to come in to get it checked as soon as he could. Well, back of the leader, Buddy Lazier, running back in 4th position now would be Tony Stewart, and that young man.
There's a battle for 3rd as Tony goes to 3rd. He goes by on the low side of Guerrero going into turn 1. Turn 2, there's a yellow.
We have a crowd. We have an incident somewhere. I believe there is smoke over on the back stretch. However, I don't see any car right now that has made contact with anything. The safety. Oh yes, we have a car on the inside.
That is number 4. That is Richie Hearn has made contact. In fact, the car is facing the wrong direction. The safety crew is there already. The yellow flag is out, so a tough weekend for Hearn, the youngster who at the age of 24 comes into the Indy Racing League as the champion of the Toyota Atlantic Series and had been quick throughout the week in practice, qualified second fast yesterday, only to have that mishap during the final practice session. They had to borrow a car and go to the back of the field to start this race, and his day is over. The car comes to a rest on the infield grass, headed the wrong direction down that long mid-stretch between turns 1 and 2.
Took a long slide through that area. If he did make contact with the inside wall, it was very slight. Let's find out about that Scott Brayton pit stop from Mike.
Just talked to John Menard. He said that Scott radioed in, said the car had gotten terrible loose. That's the quote from John Menard. They were afraid he had a tire going down. They brought him in just to be on the safe side. Obviously, they're looking at the tires, but I have not seen any report on that. So Scott's out, and boy, I tell you, there was a lot of frustration in this pit because the yellow came out just as Scott got back on the track.
The yellow is out because of a spin involving Richie Hearn. He lost control coming off corner number 1, did a 360 into the infield grass, came very close to making heavy contact with the inside wall, but he did not make heavy contact. He is out of the car and is okay. Let's go to Vince Welsh.
Standing by with John Delapina, car owner for Richie Hearn, and Richie was having a good day. He'd already moved up to 7th place, and he hadn't never even been in that car up to speed because of the accident yesterday. Can you shed some light on what happened out there on the track?
We're not really sure. Something broke on the car, and I spun out coming out of turn 2. That's all I know.
He showed great ability by moving up so quickly into the field.
The car was very comfortable. He was catching the leaders at about anywhere between 3 or 4 tenths a lap to about a second a lap. So, you know, he was taking it easy. He wasn't really pushing it very hard. So obviously the car must have been pretty close, but we don't know what happened. So we'll have to find out what broke and go from there.
Richie Hearn out of the race.
20 laps completed. We are under caution. Buddy Lazier, the leader.
Race fans, the Indy Racing League is off to a fast start with the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Get on board with racing's newest league, the Indy Racing League, with all new officially licensed and local merchandise. The 1996 catalog features a variety of apparel and collectibles from the Indy Racing League and the always popular Indy 500, along with select items for you Brickyard 400 fans. Call now and receive absolutely free your 1996 catalog. Operators are standing by. Call 1-800-955-INDY, 1-800-955-INDY.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Welcome back to live coverage of the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World, presented by Aurora, the first race of the Indy Racing League. 21 laps have been completed. We are under caution. Richie Hearn losing control coming off of corner number 1, sliding to the inside of the racetrack, making slight contact with the inside barrier. However, he was quickly out of the car and is okay.
We had under yellow 2 cars, lap cars, between 1st and 2nd, but Eddie Cheever now peels off into the pit area, so he is stopping. And now there's one lap car between first and second. That is the veteran Johnny Parsons. Running first, once again, Buddy Lazier. He is led from the pole and from the start. Second now is Ari Lyondike. Third is the youngster from Rushville, Indiana, Tony Stewart. In the last couple of green laps before the yellow, Tony picked up 2 spots, went by Scott Sharp, and then made a great move in the banking of turn 2 to get around Roberto Guerrero. So Guerrero now is back in the 4th position. Also in the pits is Robbie Groff in number 11.
Eddie Cheever came in, Robbie Groff came in, Mike Groff, I should say.
Groff.
And both of those are both on the racetrack again. It was a 20-second stop for Eddie Cheever. Today's live broadcast of the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World, presented by Aurora, brought to you by Aurora, proud to be the official pace car of the Indy Racing League. Ray Bestis, with safety there is no compromise. Insist on Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. And by Valvoline, official motor oil and fuel supplier of the Indy Racing League. The green flag is out, and Tony Stewart goes for second place.
In an unlikely position on the high side, going through turn 1. He makes it stick, and he has second position. That is a gutsy move by a rookie to go by on the high side of a very tight turn. Johnny Parsons quickly gets out of the way. As he said earlier today, I'm just out there right now to stay out of trouble, get out of the way. And right now, Stewart has a gap to close down because on the initial start and on this restart after yellow, Stewart has gotten some great starts.
He has. He gets a good jump every time they come to the green. He continues to lead, but is being chased now by Tony Stewart, driving one of the John Menard cars. He is closing in, it would appear, and pulling away from third place, Ari Lyondike. 24 laps have been completed. It's about a second and a half advantage for Buddy Lazier.
We're watching, though, as Lyondike is losing contact with Tony Stewart, and closing in 4th position is Roberto Guerrero. So we could have a battle a few laps for 3rd spot.
We pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. Welcome back to the Walt Disney World Speedway on a now cloudy afternoon where the Indy 200 presented by Aurora is 27 laps old, and the lead continues to be held by Buddy Lazier. Running in second position is Tony Stewart. He's about 9/10 of a second behind. Third place belongs to the number 5 car of Ari Lyondike, 3.5 seconds behind. Fourth place is car number 21, driven by Roberto Guerrero. Fifth is car number 41, driven by Scott Sharp. In 6th position is 12, Buzz Hawkins. In 7th position would be Davey Hamilton in 14th. And we're continuing to watch Tony Stewart. Did he get by Lazier? We have a new leader then. Tony Stewart has passed Buddy Lazier over in turn number 2 and has taken the lead of this event.
Tony Stewart has just increased his fan club by probably 50,000 with the drive that he is having here this afternoon. He made the move down the backstretch. He is working so cleanly through traffic. I mean, here's a guy that has never been in an Indy car until he tested with A.J. Foyt in the fall of the year. He picked up this ride from John Menard just a couple of weeks ago. He has been so smooth, and he just blew by. Your leader starts to open some gap. The leader now trapped behind Brayton, and now the leader pulls, or the second place car, we should say, Lazier was behind Brayton, gets by. There is the difficult aspect of passing on this racetrack. And once again, Tony Stewart has a full straightaway advantage now over Buddy Lazier. Back there in third position is still Lyondike. Fourth is Guerrero, and right on Guerrero's heel would be Calkins. Calkins, another rookie, takes a look to the inside, almost 3 wide in turn 1. He couldn't make it stick, though.
Mike King is down in Tony Stewart's pit area.
You talk about a bunch of guys that are pumped up every time he comes past. It's high fives and cheers and hands up in the air. They think they're going to win this race of the rookie.
Well, they could very well do it. Tony Stewart, who won 3 championships in the United States Auto Club in '95, is leading.
Well, he is doing his job, Bob, on the racetrack. If that crew thinks he's going to win, they have to do their job at least twice in the pit area.
And that's a very important aspect of this event.
Indy Racing League fans, here is your chance to be a part of the 1997 Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. It's the ultimate fairy tale. Exciting Indy Racing League action and Walt Disney World. Be there for the return of the Indy Racing League in sunny Orlando, Florida. Stay at one of Disney's magical resort hotels with free transportation to and from the race. Imagine joining thousands of race fans in the heart of Disney's 8 theme and water parks. You can have it all. January 25, 1997. The Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Call 1-800-822-INDY for your ticket order form. 1-800-822-INDY.
When it's time to make the choice for your family and your car, you don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Back at the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World, and we have Buddy Lazier on pit road. He had dropped back to third position. Ari Leindijk had passed, and here he is for his pit stop. Here's Mike King.
He's here. The Firestone's getting ready to come off. Buddy Lazier, who led the first 2 laps of this race, forces the pole sitter, all 4 tires off. This is an experienced Himmelgarn crew. We have talked about the fact that this will be a key. He is complaining about something with the steering, trying to communicate with his guys. He is certainly not particularly happy about something with the steering. We are now passing the 22-second mark as he continues here, and they are going to make another adjustment to the front right tire. Apparently the hub was not connected, and this is disaster. 31 seconds now. They're removing the tire, and they are looking at it. So it looks like they may be looking at the brake rotor. This is real trouble for Buddy Lazier. They're going to have to make a change, and the pole sitter already in past 45 seconds, Bob. A tough break for Buddy.
Even a routine pit stop is disastrous here, but when you sit in the pits this long with the drivers turning laps of around 20 seconds, and you're in there for any length of time, it is just devastating. And that is the situation with our pole sitter, Buddy Lazier, who remains on pit road here and could very well be out of the race. Well, Tony Stewart has continued to add to his lead. He is now 3.7 seconds ahead of Ari Leindijk, and another rookie, Buzz Calkins, is running in third position at this moment. In fourth would be the 21 car of Roberto Guerrero, and in fifth position is Stan Wackles.
Well, here is the 30-lap rundown for those of you keeping score at home. Tony Stewart leading in car number 20. Second place, car 91, was Buddy Lazier before his pit stop. In third, number 5, Ari Leindijk. Fourth, number 21, Roberto Guerrero. Fifth was number 41, Scott Sharp. Sixth, Buzz Calkins in number 12. Seventh position, number 14, Davey Hamilton. Eighth position, number 17, Stan Waddles. In the ninth position, number 9, Stefan Gregoire. In the 10th position, number 90, Lynn St. James. 11th, number 54, Robbie Buell. 12th, number 33, Michele Alboreto. 13th, number 75, Johnny O'Connell. 14th, number 11, Mike Groff. 15th, number 3, Eddie Cheever. 16th, number 18, John Paul Jr. 17th, number 16, Johnny Parsons. 18th position at 30 laps, number 2, Scott Brayton. 19th position, number 4, Richie Hearn. And 20th position, number 25, out of the race, David Coudray.
Let's go to Vince Welsh, who's standing by with Richie Hearn.
Richie, you had moved all the way up from 19th to 7th place, and you had not even had an opportunity to get that car up to speed because of yesterday's accident, so it seemed as though everything was going fine. What happened?
Well, I don't know. I mean, the car was working very good, and, I was just kind of setting my own pace, even though it seemed faster than people in front of me, but the car, I was pretty comfortable with what I was doing, and I don't know, the wind was starting to make a little bit, the car changed a little bit out there, but I don't think it had anything to do. I just came off of turn 1, and either something broke or fluid came out of the car or something like that, and it just came around pretty violently, and it wasn't a normal thing. I had no warning, and I was fortunate not to wreck the car too bad, and I didn't really hit anything, just grazed the guardrail, and feel back to the crew, all my sponsors, and Food for Less, Rouse, and everybody like that. They came out here to see a good race, and we didn't finish.
Having not been in this situation before in the Indy style car racing, did you feel comfortable out there in the heat of the pack?
Yeah, it was all right. I was actually I was surprised how comfortable I felt because I had never given the car up to speed, and this is just a risk we had to take. Running a car that we've never run before. No matter what we do, still there's so many working parts in the car, so things can go wrong, and this is just an unfortunate incident.
Thank you, Richie. Best of luck to you. Richie Hearn, second man out, but good news is he's healthy and walking away.
And there will be better days for Richie Hearn. From the pit area, Scott Brayton has been in for 20.5 seconds. Buddy Lazier's pit stop took 1:37. The A-arm had worked loose on the suspension. Let's catch the 40-lap rundown now. Here's Donald Davidson.
Okay, Bob, we've got Tony Stewart in the lead over Ari Lyondike. Buzz Calkins was third. This is at 40 laps. Roberto Guerrero fourth. Stan Waddles in fifth. Scott Sharp sixth. Then Davey Hamilton, Stefan Gregoire, Robbie Buell, and Michele Alboreto with Lynn St. James in 11th. Those at the 11th of the lead lap, and now we're at 50 laps. It doesn't take very long here.
That is indeed the case, and it looks like that Brayton's problems are just continuing. That car is definitely not up to full song, but his teammate, Tony Stewart, certainly having a good day at this point. Johnny Parsons has come onto pit road.
Johnny Parsons is in, but as we watch the race unfold, we have two true rookies out running 1 and 2. Buzz Calkins now has moved to the second position. He is trying to set sail and chase down Tony Stewart. Tony obviously is being settled down by team manager Larry Curry. There's good conversation between those two. There's been good communication throughout the week of practice. And right now, the fans, well, they sold 50,000 seats. They're not used them because they're all standing up and they've been on their feet ever since the starting green.
That is for sure. Well, Brake Parts Incorporated and their Raybestos brand of brakes is an official sponsor of the Indy Racing League, and they have initiated a new season-long award sponsorship. Raybestos will pay $10,000 in prize money to the highest finishing rookie in each of the 1996 Indy Racing League events. We'll hear from the winner of the Raybestos Top Finishing Rookie Award following today's race. And right now, as Gary indicated, two rookies are running first and second. Tony Stewart out ahead of Buzz Calkins by a little more than 4 seconds. Johnny Parsons continues to be on pit road. They're looking at that car. It does not look good. There is some steam coming from the engine compartment, and the day may be over shortly for Johnny Parsons also.
Well, that's a 93 Lola Menard engined car, and he said the car has a lot of promise and not worked with the car that much on a short track. The last time that car was on a racetrack was on the big 2.5-mile oval at Indianapolis, so they simply need more time with that particular chassis combination with the Menard engine on a smaller racetrack. But once again, we continue to watch your leader from Rushville, Indiana, Tony Stewart, continues to lead, but Buzz Calkins with a nice ride. Buzz Calkins out of California started in 5th position at the qualifying at 175.4, and he's within about 3 seconds now of your leader Tony Stewart.
Let's try to find out what's going on with Johnny Parsons. Here's Vince.
Thanks very much, Bob. A bad scene here for Johnny Parsons. He's looking at his crew as if to ask, are we done or are we continuing on? The initial response I have received is that there's a problem with the suspension, but as you earlier noted, there's also a pretty good amount of smoke coming from the rear portion of the car. Johnny's just asked for a drink of water, so evidently he's going to stay in the car, but it does not look good for Johnny Parsons.
Johnny Parsons will sit in there for just a few more laps, perhaps, to see if they can get that car back in working order, but it does not look good at the moment. And Gary, it would seem that we are nearing that time when we have routine pit stops, because we're nearing the 60-lap mark, 58 complete, and Calkins is within a couple of car lengths of Tony Stewart.
Stewart is in traffic. Buzz has caught up about 2 car lengths between the two off the first turn, down that mid-straight, 1,000 feet of pavement into the corner. They go under Eddie Cheever. Eddie Cheever now blocking. Actually, he is the lap car between the two leaders. Now Calkins gets by down into turn 3. Once again, about 10, 12 car lengths between first and second. The fans now really have something to cheer about, because now these two young Lions will have a chance to show their expertise in traffic. Lynn St. James of the Lifetime Channel will be the next to go a lap down. She is out in front of Stewart, and now as Stewart slows a bit behind Lynn, Buzz closes in. They are nose to tail into turn 3. 7-degree banking down the front straightaway. It is still Tony Stewart by only a car length.
And he is in heavy traffic once again. Lynn St. James just ahead of him. He goes to the inside of her coming off turn 1. Now St. James between Stewart and Calkins. Now Calkins tries to make a move to Laplin. St. James cannot do it in the second turn. And now they come out of the second turn and down the short straightaway, and Calkins does get by, but now he's got Stefan Gregoire. So indeed, Calkins lost several car lengths there in that battle in traffic as Tony Stewart was able to pull ahead of him just a little bit.
Well, Stewart has some open racetrack in front of him before he catches up behind one of the A.J. Foyt entries. And right now, Buzz has gotten around Stefan Gregoire, the Frenchman who has only raced once in his great ride at Indianapolis in 1993. And now, once again, Buzz sets sail for Tony. Tony will have about in another 2 or 3 laps, 4 cars out in front of him. So once again, this is an exercise in driving in traffic.
62 laps completed. Tony Stewart leads at Orlando.
When you say the word environmentalist, race car driver doesn't pop into most people's minds. But the track here and the race teams recycle all their used oil, fuel, engine coolant, and filters with Safety Clean. Make sure you do your part. Patronize businesses that recycle their waste fluids. You can tell who they are by the sign in their window that says, "We care." That sign means that, like over 70 race teams, these businesses are recycling with Safety Clean, the official environmental and recycling service of the Indy Racing League.
The legend begins as Major League Auto Racing comes to the entertainment capital of the world, and you're invited to the grand opening celebration. Be a part of auto racing history as Las Vegas Motor Speedway proudly presents its inaugural event, the Las Vegas 500, for the Indy Racing League on Sunday, September 15th. See the cars and stars of the all-new Indy Racing League at the world's premier motorsports entertainment complex. Tickets go on sale March 1st. Phone 702-644-4444 for ticket info. Sunday, September 15th. Don't miss the Indy Racing League at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League.
Back at the Walt Disney World Speedway, leader Tony Stewart is in his first ever Indianapolis type car pit stop. 16 seconds, 4-tire change, and he is ready to be pushed away. 20.89 seconds. Tony Stewart's first stop was a good one, and he lights him up on his way.
And Gary, it was very obvious that Tony Stewart wanted to not kill the car as he went out. He was kind of cautious, but once the cut clutch engaged, he was there to pull away.
The NHRA may issue him a driver's license because he smoked him up and was drag racing from the pits. Actually, he lost the lead to Buzz Calkins a lap before he came in. So Buzz did take the lead on the racetrack before Tony came in, but Tony now has successfully made his first pit stop, and Roberto Guerrero is out to the pits after a quick stop. Back in for his second stop, Buddy Lazier. Gregoire is also in, and of course Johnny Parsons out of the race, car number 16.
And let's talk to Johnny with Vince Welch.
Down in the pit with Johnny Parsons Jr. out of the race. Johnny was certainly one of the local race fans' favorites back in Indianapolis, but it was a tough day for you this afternoon. What happened?
Well, Buddy Lazier was a lot faster than us. I was just trying to hang on and get a good finish. I pointed him by. I come off too high, noticed him coming fast, so I pointed to the left. He obviously just didn't see that. As we got close to turn 2, I wanted to leave him room at the apex down low, but he chose to try me on the outside. Clipped me, and I hope he's still running good. Hope it didn't bother him, but we're going to try and fix our tie bar. And, you know, I really hate running slow, but this is a speedway car, Indy car. We tried to adapt it to the mile track. It just has been a handful, such as John Paul's car.
Let's go back up into the booth.
Buzz Calkins has made his pit stop. It was fairly routine. Now Ari Lyondike comes in for a pit stop. The crew going to work on that car.
Lazier continues to ride out a very lengthy pit stop, his second. You heard Johnny Parsons say some slight contact between those two as Gregoire is also in the pits, and Lyondike having a problem. He stalled it.
Vince, what's the problem with Lyondike?
It was a quick pit stop. Everything was going well. They just added some fuel, no tires at all, but as Ari started to go out of the pits, he stalled the car, and now it is stopped, and they have just now gotten it restarted. A costly pit stop for Ari Lyondike. They're still having trouble getting him out, and he is now going to get away from the pit area, but it was a very costly pit stop. Ari has stalled it again, so they're going to run him back, and this is obviously a costly pit stop for Ari Lyondike.
Another disastrous situation for a veteran as Ari Lyondike is having all kinds of problems getting out of the pit area.
And we've had several lead changes, Bob, with pit stop shuffling. We had Stan Waddles was in the lead for several laps there, and now it's Robbie Buell is at the front, and now he's coming in.
So that makes Michele Alboreto our leader, and he also comes into the pit area, giving the lead to Davey Hamilton. Let's go down to Mike King for an assessment of some of the pit stops down at the south end.
Yeah, Stan Waddles, who of course is a rookie. We talked so much about the experience of crews coming in. 29.68, the speed or rather the time when Stan Waddles first stopped. And once again, one of his crew members walked over, looked at the watch, and just kind of hung his head. Obviously, they wanted to be quicker than that.
It was a 57-second pit stop for Ari Leyendijk. He, however, is back onto the racetrack, but lost several laps during that extended stop in the pits. And we understand that Stefan Gregoire is also having major problems in the pit, and his day may be over. Mike, can you tell us what's going on down there?
They're unstrapping Stefan Gregoire, and he is, in fact, sliding out of the cockpit. We will try to catch a word with Ron Himmelgarn. No real indication of what may be wrong with the car. It is obvious that it's an engine problem. Crew members enter their back into the car, so Stefan Gregoire's day is done.
And Mike, you might look just down the pit road from Stefan Gregoire, because Buddy Lazier is also climbing out of his car, giving every indication that his day is also over. So the pole sitter for the first Indy Racing League event, Buddy Lazier, has climbed out of the car, as has Stefan Gregoire. So the field now begins to slim down just a bit, and at the front of the field is once again Buzz Calkins. After the pit stops have been completed, he has about a 9-second advantage on Tony Stewart.
This is a double blow here with both of the Ron Himmelgarn cars going out with just a few moments of each other, Bob.
And let's check in with Ron Himmelgarn. He's with Mike.
Ron, I know this has to be very disappointing. Both of your drivers are in. Buddy had the problem earlier with the right front, and then Stefan came in. What is the problem with the two cars?
Well, with Stefan's car, we've lost fourth, fifth, and sixth. All we got is third gear left, so we can't continue with that. With Buddy's car, the upright are sheared a bolt, and so we only got 2 bolts holding that part on, so we're not going to run it that way. We're going to probably change out the upright and try to go back out, but it doesn't look like we're going to have a real good finish today.
Garney had high expectations to start this race, and now certainly very disappointed. They will try to get Lazier back on the track.
And so on the racetrack, it is Buzz Calkins leading this event. Tony Stewart, however, who appears to be pulling in just a little bit. He has about a 12-second advantage on Tony Stewart at the moment, as 80 laps have now been completed.
We were going to give you the rundown at 70 laps, but there was so many positions where it was a shuffle situation because of pit stops. So what we'll do now is to give you the rundown at 80 laps. And in fact, this is as they're coming across. Buzz Calkins, in fact, has now completed 81 laps. So second would be Tony Stewart. Third, Roberto Guerrero. Fourth would be Mike Ruff in the 11 car. Fifth is Stan Waddles. Sixth is Michele Alboreto. Seventh is Davey Hamilton. Eighth is Lynn St. James. Ninth would be Scott Sharp, and 10th is Robbie Buell. That's the standings at 80 laps.
Now let's give a call to Michele Alboreto, a Formula One veteran, winning 5 times in Formula One competition. He's had perhaps the biggest smile on his face this weekend. He said, hey, you forget what you've done in the past. I'm a rookie. I'm 39. I'm enjoying this. It's like going back to the first day of school. Forget what you've done. We're learning as much as we can. And he's having a good time out there, having a good ride.
A 5-time winner in Formula One competition. Used to drive for Ferrari, among other teams. Michele Alboreto making his debut in Indy Racing today in the Indy Racing League. Buzz Calkins with now a 16-second advantage over Tony Stewart. And today the Indy Racing League teams are competing for over $1 million in prize money. Over $75,000 has been posted by participating companies in the form of contingency and special incentive awards. The Indy Racing League would like to thank the following companies for their award sponsorships: True Value Hardware, AC Delco Batteries, Champion Brand Spark Plugs, Brake Parts Inc., Raybestos, Valvoline, Earl's Performance, STP, Miller Electric, Bosch, the American Dairy Association, and IMCO Gears. Eddie Cheever in for a pit stop. Mike, summarize that for us, if you will.
Yeah, it was routine all the way, 20.53 seconds, but certainly we have noticed a difference in the way the tires on his car are wearing as compared to the Goodyear Racing Eagles that come off Tony Stewart's car. The tires that come off of Tony's car look almost new. It's amazing how evenly they are wearing. So obviously Tony's car working better than Eddie Cheever.
Now, Bob, we're talking about the 2 rookies running 1 and 2. Buzz Calkins is a rookie with the Indy Racing League, but he is no rookie to running rear-engine cars. He's a 3-year veteran of the Indy Lights. And that's a lot of experience compared to a Tony Stewart who comes out of midget sprint Silver Crown cars. So obviously we're all impressed with the ride that Tony Stewart is having, but once again, we have 2 rookies, if you will, to the Indy Racing League out in front right now.
Buzz Calkins, the leader, 19-second advantage on Tony Stewart with 87 out of 200 laps completed.
Presenting the automotive equivalent of a bull market. It has a 32-valve, 250-horsepower V8 that shattered 47 speed endurance records. It can travel 100,000 miles without a single tune-up. And with an enviable list of luxury amenities like leather seating areas, walnut trim, and CD stereo, a combination of luxury and performance found only in cars costing thousands more, the new Aurora by Oldsmobile could be just the boost the market is looking for. Aurora, an American dream. Test drive the Aurora today at your authorized Oldsmobile retailer and see what happens when you demand better.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Bob Jenkins along with Gary Lee, Donald Davidson, Vince Welsh, and Mike King at Orlando, Florida, the Walt Disney World Speedway and the Indy 200 presented by Aurora, the first race of the Indy Racing League. Buzz Calkins has a 17-second advantage on Tony Stewart. The other car on the lead lap is Roberto Guerrero, nearing the halfway point. Let's find out about the mood in the Buzz Calkins pits. Here's Vince Welsh.
Well, I'm standing by with Buzz's father, Brad, and I know Buzz has got to be thrilled to death to be leading this race, and he's running extremely strong. He's been increasing the lead lap by lap.
Yeah, we're excited. We never dreamed this. We're just happy to be here. We wouldn't have been racing this year if it hadn't been for the IRL. So we're just ecstatic.
What's been the key so far to his success in the midway point?
Well, we've had a good car setup last night when we tested with fuel tanks. We knew we could race if everything holds together. So we'll just hope.
If you got him in and out quickly on the pit stop. If you got him in and out quickly on the pit stop.
Yeah.
That's Brad Calkins, the father of the leader, Buzz Calkins, having a wonderful day down in the pits.
Having a good time on the racetrack and in the pits. Buzz Calkins leading, and 96 laps now have been completed. We are just 4 away from the halfway point. Well, fans may be interested to know that the race standings after every 10 laps are available today on the internet as the race is in progress. Fans can connect with their web browser to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway homepage at www.brickyard.com. Look for the Indy Racing League entry, which will take you to the latest information from here in Orlando. Now, if you have a comment on today's broadcast or a question or two, you can send internet mail to the IMS Radio Network or our internet electronic mail address. That is imsradio@brickyard.com.
Well, right now, only a couple of drivers separating. Now 3 drivers separating Tony Stewart, who is second, and your leader, Buzz Calkins. Calkins about to lap the entire field. Only 2 cars on the lead lap. 1 driver drops off to make entry to the pit lane. Now 2 drivers, 2-lap cars. One is Alvaretto. The other is a Foyt car. Those Foyt cars look so much alike from a distance you can't even spot the number. Lynn St. James back in the pits, car number 90, in a deal that she just put together a couple of weeks ago with the Lifetime cable television channel. So I am wondering, Bob Jenkins, if there's a problem with that car of Tony Stewart. Tony now about to be lapped. He's been running strong.
Well, he certainly has fallen off the pace considerably in the last few laps. After the green flag drop, he went to the front of the field in no time at all. However, just before the first series of pit stops, the car began to fall off, and now he finds himself in second position and losing ground to Buzz Calkins.
About we're at the halfway mark now. We've only had 1 yellow flag, but in terms of Tony Stewart dropping off, it's only about a half a second a lap. But the rundown at 100 laps is Buzz Calkins in the lead with Tony Stewart in second place. Those are the 2 in the lead lap. Then we have Roberto Guerrero in third. 4th is Stan Wattles. 5th is Michele Alvaretto. 6th, Davey Hamilton. 7th, Robbie Buell. 8th, Scott Sharp. 9th is Ari Lyondike, who had a stall, or I think maybe 2 stalls on the pit stop. And in 10th is Johnny O'Connell. And Lynn St. James, actually, that was her second stop in just a couple of laps. She was up to 8th place at one point.
Is there a problem with Tony Stewart's car? He has been slowing down. Mike, what have you learned?
Well, in talking with John Menard, Gary's exactly right. Tony has lost some ground. However, he is running in second place. That apparently right now just might be strategy, because John looked at me quite simply and said, he's still running second, isn't he? I said, he sure is. He goes, well, we're just maybe trying to save a little fuel here and there. So we may be looking at strategy at the halfway point.
But he has to keep from getting lapped, and he isn't that far from being lapped right now.
Bob, in consecutive laps, he was 18 seconds down, 19, 20, then he went to 18, and now he's 19. So I think it's fairly constant.
Well, this could be a case of, if it is strategy, they plan on winning this race in the pit area, because each of these drivers will have one more pit stop to go the distance. So it's going to be up to the John Menard crew, and they're an experienced bunch of guys, to get Tony in and out and give the rookie a chance to win this thing.
Mike Groff has had a long pit stop down at the end of the pit area. Vince, what was the situation there?
Well, they could not get the right front tire off. They tried 2 different air guns, and finally the lug nut did jolt just enough to where they finally could get it to spin, but it was a costly pit stop to get that right front tire changed. It took them 2 minutes.
Mike Groff, one of the drivers for A.J. Foyt, that deal coming together on Thursday morning as the track was about to open for the first official practice session. Mike put the deal together, got the 3rd A.J. Foyt ride, but a lengthy pit stop has dropped him back into the standings. He's now being shown in 12th position.
St. James having some difficulty coming through turn 2. I think we've got a problem with one of the cars off the 3rd corner. Let's check on this front straightaway. Lynn was very slow. Looked like she may have been headed for the pit area, but stayed on the racetrack and continues through turn 1 and out down that mid-stretch, but well off the pace.
Our pole sitter is out of the race. Here's Mike King.
Buddy Lazier, I know you've got to be very disappointed. You're holding the car in your hand that cost you perhaps a race.
Yeah, without a question, we're disappointed. You know, the crew worked extremely hard. We had a problem yesterday with being able to control the car, literally the steering. It's like an old car that had sloppy steering. And we thought we found it. Unfortunately, we didn't have a warm-up this morning. And we didn't get much warm-up yesterday. We had this problem yesterday, and in qualifying, we thought we found it. But at the start of the race, I couldn't control the car. I was jumping around from lane to lane, literally to the point where I was on opposite lock trying to control the car. You know, and sure enough, it was the right front upright. Like that.
So sheer gold he's holding in his hand. It may have cost him the first win here in the IRL. Bob?
4 cars are officially out of the race, in addition to Buddy Lazier, who you just heard from. Johnny Parsons is out. So is the number 4 car of Richie Hearn because of a crash over off of turn number 1. And also out of the race is David Coudrade in car number 25.
Race fans, the Indy Racing League is off to a fast start with the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Get on board with racing's newest league, the Indy Racing League, with all new officially licensed and local merchandise. The 1996 catalog features a variety of apparel and collectibles from the Indy Racing League and the always popular Indy 500, along with select items for you Brickyard 400 fans. Call now and receive absolutely free your 1996 catalog. Operators are standing by. Call 1-800-955-INDY. 1-800-955-INDY.
Have you ever wondered what happens to the used oil and other fluids after the race? The tracking teams have Safety Clean, here to recycle all the waste fluids. But they're not the only ones doing their part. Auto repair shops, printers, hospitals, and thousands of other businesses recycle with Safety Clean. You can identify them by the We Care sign in their window. They're good people to do business with. Safety Clean is the official environmental and recycling service of the Indy Racing League.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. You're listening to live coverage of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network at Orlando's Walt Disney World Speedway. And the running of the Indy 200 presented by Aurora, first race of the Indy Racing League. At the moment, we have Buzz Calkins out ahead of Tony Stewart by a little more than 13 seconds. We can add another car now out of the race. Stefan Gregoire is officially out.
Bob, Tony's been chopping off the rate of about a second a lap. So evidently crew chief Larry Curry said, okay, we need to keep him in sight here because we anticipate that the second pit stops will be coming up very shortly. Also, we noticed that Ari Lyondike has been able to get past Scott Sharp and is setting his sights now on Robbie Buell for 7th place. Also, an amazing run here. Stan Watt, drivers here. He came in for a very nice story on the front page of the Orlando Sentinel the other day. And a lot of people thought, well, what is this guy doing here? But he's been excellent during practice. Qualified 10th, and he's now running 4th and doing a very nice job. He's ahead of former almost world champion Michele Alboreto, who was runner-up in the World Championship in 1985 for Ferrari. Waddles is 1 position ahead of him.
Let's go to Mike King.
Yeah, in talking about perhaps the strategy that Team Menard is employing here with Tony Stewart, throughout the week they have been working with, of course, different boost levels on his car, and it could very well be that he certainly had the wick turned down a bit, and they told him to turn it back up. So that appears to be the case. There's been no radio action here as far as him radioing in. No talk of any sort of problem at all with the Tony Stewart car.
Let me remind you, there are 2 cars on the lead lap, Calkins and Stewart. In 3rd position is Roberto Guerrero. 4th belongs to Stan Wattles. In 5th position is Michele Alboreto. 6th is Davey Hamilton. 7th would be Robbie Buell. In 8th position, Lyondike. And in 9th position would be car number 41. That is Scott Sharp. 10th position at the moment belongs to Johnny O'Connell in number 75.
Well, everybody was standing up, and we thought something was happening on the front stretch, but Brayton is just having a terrible ride. The veteran from Coldwater, Michigan, he's had more starts in the Indianapolis 500 than anybody, any active driver with 14, but he's headed for the pit area. Something happened in practice late yesterday afternoon. He got into the wall coming out of turn 3. Well, he was going to go to the pits. He went to the warm-up lane and then continues down the racetrack. So I'm not sure what Scott Brayton's problem might be.
I think simply the car is just running so poorly that he wants to stay out of everybody's way, but he wants to stay out there. He has lost about 21 laps now to the leader, and not all of those have been lost on pit road. The car is just not working at all for Scott Brayton. He has been off the pace since shortly after the drop of the green flag. Well, Gary, I think a lot of newcomers are making their mark today. Boy, we have seen some excellent performances from drivers of the future. That's what this Indy Racing League is all about. And you will need only to look to the first 2, Calkins and Stewart, to know that that is indeed the case.
To respond to that, but first, Brayton is headed for the pit lane. Well, we heard Calkins' dad say that had it not been for the Indy Racing League, they would not be here. They would not be in an Indy car. So obviously, there are drivers that are very, very competitive that should have the chance and can be competitive at this level. I think Tony Stewart is a great example. Here's a kid that only started racing in United States Auto Club events back in 1990, so a very quick ascension to the pinnacle of that type of competition.
Scott Sharp is in for a pit stop. Scott Brayton is in. As you mentioned, Gary, they've taken the engine cowling off the car. We'll get a report on that in just a moment from Mike King. First, let's go to the other end of the pits. Vince Welsh, who's in the Buzz Calkins pit.
Buzz Calkins leading the race in his 95 Reynard Ford is running perfectly. Speaking with his father just a moment ago, he said their fuel is treating them very well. They are having excellent mileage, and they have not made one single adjustment to this car. And he said if we can hold on, everything is going great. If we can just hold on, we'll be set.
Now let's check on the Brayton situation. Doesn't look good, Mike.
No, it sure doesn't. In fact, all the cowling, the engine cowling is off, as are the cowlings on both of the side pods. So whatever the problem is, it does not appear to be engine related. It appears to be in the rear springs. They're taking a look if there needs to be an adjustment. Scott has just shut it down. The steering wheel comes out, and it appears that he could be done for the day. But as we told you earlier, when they first brought him in for the very first stop at like lap 7, they thought it could have been a tire going down. John Menard said the car was very loose. Then that was not it. The car was still terribly loose. They made a wing adjustment. That's not it. They're checking the rear springs now, but apparently it's done for Scott Brayton as far as this day goes.
Bob, very low attrition, and the attrition rate has become mechanical. The only car out of the race because of an accident would be Hearn, who had the problem coming off turn 1. So in the beginning of the weekend, a lot of guys were saying, well, you know, it's a narrow racetrack. It's really fast out there. It's almost flat out. We're going to have lots of traffic, lots of trouble, lots of yellows. That has not been the case. These guys are showing their expertise. It's been a good, clean, safe race, and the attrition rate is coming from breakage as far as the parts and not from wrecks.
And the only wreck of the day was a very minor hit on the inside guardrail by Richie Hearn, who started from the back of the pack, was moving up nicely through the field, but lost control coming off the first corner early in the race, slid to the inside and grazed the inside rail. He's out of the race, but okay.
Bob, we've got 14 cars still in competition. Apparently Scott Brayton has climbed out of the car and has called it a day. So we're at 132 laps now. We have Buzz Calkins with a 15.5-second lead over Tony Stewart. Then we have Roberto Guerrero is a lap down. Then we have Stan Wattles in 4th place. 5th is Michele Alboreto. 6th would be Davey Hamilton. 7th is Ari Lyondike coming back after a stalled pit stop, during a pit stop. Robbie Buell is in 8th. 9th is Johnny O'Connell, and then 10th is Eddie Cheever, who started last. The 4 others that are running, we've got Scott Sharp is 11th.
Stewart is coming in for a pit stop. Donald will interrupt you and get the other 3 drivers still in the race in just a moment. Meanwhile, here is Tony Stewart and Mike King.
Okay, here we are, Tim Menard, Tony Stewart pit, and Stewart trying to tear at his helmet, it looks like to get a tear-off off, and he has done that. Now the tires are off, the 4 Goodyear Eagles off, the tear-off goes off the helmet, 4 tires are on. This is going to be a very good stop. He is only waiting for the rest of the fuel to go in. Fueling is out, and Tony Stewart is away, 20.41. 20.41. Once again, he just about killed it, but he managed to save it.
This could be some good strategy because now they put the pressure on Calkins. Okay, put your money where your mouth is. You've been leading. We make the stop first. Now you guys have to make a real clean stop to win this race. If you mess up your pit stop, we're going to win it.
This is going to be a very interesting final 65 laps. We've completed 135, and Tony Stewart has just made his what could be final pit stop of the day. Buzz Calkins, however, continues to be the leader.
Ari Lyondike is also in for what should be his final pit stop, as Lynn St. James also making her routine stop. Now remember, it was a very costly stop, the first round of pit stops for Lyondike. He stalled the engine. They had to refire it. Looks like this time the crew on the rear deck of that car, they're pushing. Nope. He stalls it again.
Lyondike having all kinds of problems getting out of the pits. Lynn St. James, meanwhile, makes a nice quick pit stop. She is back out there. Scott Brayton's car is being pushed behind the wall. We continue to watch Ari Lyondike. He has just had an absolutely miserable day in the pits. His first stop was over a minute, and now this one is taking almost that long. They try once again to get the car out. The crew behind, pushing, trying to get it rolling, and it will not go.
No, it will not fire.
So unbelievable bad luck for Ari Lyondike. Vince, you're there. Can you tell us any more?
Lyondike has been having problems with his fuel intake valve, and that is the reason that they are having trouble getting the vehicle going. And they, as you mentioned, Bob, struggled with a 2-minute pit stop the first time through. They've already stalled it twice on this stop, so it's going to be another lengthy stop, taking Ari Lyondike for sure out of contention.
And let's go to Mike King, who is with John Menard.
John Menard, a disappointing day for Scott Brayton. Certainly high hopes for him, but the car just never worked today.
No, it didn't work right from the start. I think probably there's something happened in the accident yesterday that we didn't catch last night, although we went over it over the car. But it must be something, because there's something major affecting the handling of the car, and it's too bad, but that's how it goes. We'll be back next time.
We still have 2 drivers in this race. Eddie Cheever's still out there, and of course Tony Stewart running in 2nd place, and what a job by that crew down there. They've done a super job.
Yeah, we're really proud of Tony and Eddie both. Tony's just doing unbelievable. We just hope he can hang on here in these final laps, and maybe, who knows, maybe we could win this thing yet.
That's John Menard.
141 laps completed out of 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway. The lead is being held by Buzz Calkins over Tony Stewart.
When it's time to make the choice for your family and your car, you don't make compromises when you know what the choices are. So take a stand for quality and safety's sake. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes. Say Ray Bestis, the best in brakes.
Indy Racing League fans, here is your chance to be a part of the 1997 Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. It's the ultimate fairy tale. Exciting Indy Racing League action and Walt Disney World. Be there for the return of the Indy Racing League in sunny Orlando, Florida. Stay at one of Disney's magical resort hotels with free transportation to and from the race. Imagine joining thousands of race fans in the heart of Disney's 8 theme and water parks. You can have it all. January 25, 1997. The Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Call 1-800-822-INDY for your ticket order form. 1-800-822-INDY.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Welcome back to live coverage of the Indy 200 presented by Aurora from Walt Disney World Speedway in Orlando, Florida. 146 laps have been completed. Now, Buzz Calkins did make his final pit stop. It was a very routine stop. He was in and out of the pits quickly. The yellow flag has come out for the second time, and it looks like we have a car that has either spun or pulled off the track over by the backstretch. Gary, can you see one? Oh, I see the car. It's on the inside of the racetrack toward the inside guardrail just off of turn number 1.
Well, we cannot see the car. It's a red car, but it's being obscured by the inside guardrail. The driver is climbing out very gingerly. The safety crew is there already.
Just our second incident of the day. Richie Hearn's crash occurred in the same area of the racetrack off of turn number 2. Virtually all of the crashes in Indy cars took place off of the third corner during the practice and qualifying, but the 2 crashes today have come off of turn number 1. We're still trying to determine who that is over there. The car is at the very inside of the racetrack, and the car is completely hidden by the inner guardrail, at least from our vantage point. We do know that it is a red car, but as to exactly who it is, we do not know.
Yeah, and Bob, we would not simply jump in and speculate, because in a situation like this, you want to make exactly sure who it is because of all the race fans around the world listening in. So as soon as we get confirmation, as the driver walked away, the driver is okay. It is number 17, yep. Waddles. Yeah, it is. We can see that car is being hoisted on the hook. But he walked away back to the ambulance for a mandatory ride to the infield hospital compound. But again, he is okay.
So that kind of gives us a chance here to catch our breath a little bit and to assess what has happened. It's been a very major pace here, very fast pace since the green came out after that first incident with Richie Hearn. And basically what it has boiled down to is a battle between 2 rookies. Buzz Calkins is showing the way at the moment with a slight advantage now as the field packs up under the caution flag over Tony Stewart. Running in 3rd position, being shown as Robbie Buell at the moment. In 4th place is Michele Alboreto. 5th is Roberto Guerrero. 6th is Davey Hamilton. 7th is Scott Sharp. In 8th position is Waddles at the moment. However, he is involved in the incident over on the backstretch. 9th position being shown as Mike Groff. In 10th position is Johnny O'Connell. 11th is Eddie Cheever. 12th, Lynn St. James. And 13th would be John Paul Jr. The other cars are out of the race. There are 13 on the track at the moment. 14th position will go to the number 5 car of Ari Lyondike, who had clutch problems and gearbox problems and has dropped out of the race. The 15th place finisher will be Scott Brayton. Finishing 16th will be Stefan Gregoire. 17th will be Buddy Lazier. 18th, Johnny Parsons. 19th, Richie Hearn. And finishing in 20th position would be David Coudrave.
You know, I honestly thought on that Buzz Calkins pit stop that Tony Stewart took the lead. It looked to me like Tony passed him twice while Calkins came in to make the stop. Now, keep in mind that in the pit position, Calkins is very near the pit entrance, so he has to go very slow, observe the speed limit through the pits to exit, whereas Stewart is pitting at the far end of the pit area, so he has a very short jaunt to light the rear end up and get out. But if, in fact, Calkins does have the lead under yellow, we do have 2 lap cars between 1st and 2nd, and that would be Michele Alboreto and the 14 car of Davey Hamilton. So under yellow, they have bunched up behind the Aurora by Oldsmobile pace car. Johnny Rutherford continues to set the pace under yellow, but it's been a very clean lead with only 2 yellows. We understand from United States Auto Club Timing and Scoring, Calkins does indeed have the lead. So, in fact, as they are on the racetrack, there are 2 lap cars between first and second. Now, under green, Bob, we have seen how well Tony Stewart has restarted at the initial start of the race and that restart from the first yellow. He has 2 lap cars to contend with. I've been impressed with how the lap cars are watching the courtesy flag, and they're moving over, giving the fast guys room to race.
We're going to get a green here in a half a lap, but let's go quickly to Vince Welch, who's with Ari Lyondike.
A frustrated Ari Lyondike, and Ari, just explain the problems that you had today.
First of all, I ran out of fuel coming on for the first pit stop, and then the engine, it doesn't run properly, so I stalled it leaving the pits, and then on the second time we started it, I went to first gear and I gassed it to go away, and it was not in first gear. The car didn't engage first gear, so I had to leave in second or third. I'm not even sure, because I just kept looking for gears. And then on the second pit stop, there were no gears at all, and the gearbox just put us out. But the car handled good today. I think I could have been in there for the win. Just too bad we had these mechanical problems, but I'm happy with the performance, and we're just going to go back to Phoenix and go back and try again.
A frustrating day for Ari Lyondike, former Indy 500 winner.
He will be at the Phoenix 200 on March 24th and at the Indianapolis 500 on May the 26th. Well, the green has come out, and it is still Calkins maintaining the lead. However, Tony Stewart has passed one of the cars that separated himself from Calkins.
Yeah, he got by Davey Hamilton, and now he's tucked up behind Alboreto. He's about to put him another lap down. That would give him a shot at your leader. So right now your leader through the banking of turn 2 down that short stretch into turn 3. And Stewart still trying to get by Michele Alboreto. So there's 1 lap car between first and second. Not a real good restart for Tony that time.
It was a rather slow restart, as a matter of fact. Calkins brought them down rather slowly, and when he came out of corner number 3, when he saw the green flag waving, he mashed the accelerator, but that kept everybody behind him, and it was a relatively slow restart. So Calkins maintaining that advantage. It is up to we'll check it on this lap. 2.3 seconds. That's exactly what it was last time. So Stewart isn't losing anything, but he also isn't gaining anything on Calkins.
Well, he's not gaining on Alboreto either. The distance has maintained at about 6 or 7, 8 car lengths now, and they've run like that for about 3 laps. So perhaps he has to find something extra to get by and make that run at your leader, Buzz Calkins.
156 laps have been completed.
The legend begins as Major League Auto Racing comes to the entertainment capital of the world, and you're invited to the grand opening celebration. Be a part of auto racing history as Las Vegas Motor Speedway proudly presents its inaugural event, the Las Vegas 500, for the Indy Racing League on Sunday, September 15th. See the cars and stars of the all-new Indy Racing League at the world's premier motorsports entertainment complex. Tickets go on sale March 1st. Phone 702-644-4444 for ticket info. Sunday, September 15th. Don't miss the Indy Racing League at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Welcome back to live coverage of the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway, presented by Aurora. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network welcomes KRLV in Las Vegas, where the Indy Racing League will be on September 15th. KKOB in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and WLVA in Lynchburg, Virginia. We're also being heard on the Armed Forces Radio Network and LaCie Broadcasting, both helping to bring Indy Racing League action to hundreds of thousands of listeners around the world.
We've talked about how impressive this visit has been. I have to say, I'm impressed with the folks down there telling people where they're to go with their tickets. The guides, the ushers, they're dressed in blue blazers, gray slacks, white shirts, and matching ties. And of course, we got the guys with little scoopers and the drones cleaning up the cigarette butts and the candy wrappers as we see around the Magic Kingdom. A most impressive weekend. When they do it right down here.
There are lots of things that we have seen here at Walt Disney World that you don't see at other racetracks. They have restroom attendants for the porta-johns, believe it or not. It's a very incredible facility, and one of the things that makes coming to a race here nice, we have over 50,000 people here, and there wasn't a single traffic backup from the beginning of the morning until the race started.
Yeah, they're masters.
The traffic moves in so well. There is an incredible number of acres of parking available here. It's been a wonderful experience at Walt Disney World.
And to speak of your class, Bob, I saw you tip the attendant outside the door. That was really
Buzz Calkins now with a 2.9-second lead on Tony Stewart. And again, Tony is not eating into that advantage. And he is still trying to work his way around the traffic. And Michele Alboreto is right ahead of him. He's not been able to get under him and pass him.
And John Paul Jr. is right in front of Alboreto. When he went out to qualify yesterday, we spotted a ladybug on the rear engine cowling of John Paul. I said, that must be good luck. But he went out, took one lap, brushed the wall, and came in. I said, what was the problem? He said, well, I went to adjust my boost control. I ran out of racetrack. I white-walled the tires, so I came in. He went out to qualify with only one lap to get the car to show and was actually 5 miles an hour faster than he had practiced the day before. Well, maybe there's something to do with ladybugs.
Well, Tony Stewart is now right behind John Paul Jr. He was able to get around Michele Alboreto a lap ago, and that brought the crowd up to its feet. Interesting group of race fans here because they are not only cheering the battle for the lead, but they're watching other battles on the track, and whenever there's a pass, they jump to their feet and give out with a cheer. Let's pause for station identification. This is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network. I'm Bob Jenkins. Welcome back to coverage of the Indy 200 presented by Aurora at Walt Disney World Speedway. Buzz Calkins, your leader. Tony Stewart, the only other driver on the lead lap, 3.7 seconds behind. Well, a spectator here in the late stages of this event is Scott Brayton. Here's Mike King.
Well, the last thing Scott Brayton wanted to be with today was a spectator in the late stages of this race. You had an ill-handling race car, and it's now behind the wall, but you're watching a great rookie battle out here. One of them, your teammate, Tony Stewart.
Yeah, I certainly hope that he can pull it off. It's a lot better to watch it from here than what I was seeing because, unfortunately, my Glidden car was just loose from the beginning, and I couldn't ever get a hold of it. And the car was so good yesterday afternoon, it really surprises me. But unfortunately, that's racing, and I just wanted to get off the track so I could get out of the other competitors' way because it wasn't working.
Has been in rear engine competition, but Tony Stewart told me yesterday that of all the race cars he's driven, the open cockpit cars, that go-karts are most like driving one of these. But right now, hey, he's closing in. Stewart, in fact, is closing down just a bit on Calkins.
Yeah, it's 2.1 seconds at the moment. Let's give a call to Robbie Buell, who is running in third position. He is 2 laps down to the field, but nevertheless, it's been a good run for another young man who will be a name to remember in coming years in the Indy Racing League. And Michele Alboreto is running in 4th place, and the veteran Roberto Guerrero is in 5th. We thought that Tony Stewart was cutting into his lead. He had taken it down to less than, or just a little over a second a couple of laps ago, but now it's back up and it continues to grow to 2.9 seconds as Calkins tries to pass. So is it
I think
O'Connell?
it's Guerrero. Was it O'Connell or Guerrero? A white car on the far end. O'Connell, the 75 car, the former IMSA driver of the year, and he really got stuck behind him. And once again, evident. No, it was Guerrero. Yeah. Guerrero was the car that slowed him down. And we can see what happens when you lose your RPMs. You have to get out of the throttle, closing in behind somebody. And Lynn St. James was saying yesterday how it really upsets the balance of the race car because these cars have ground effects. The faster they go, the better the car sticks. You back out of the throttle, lose some RPMs, slow down, the car will not stick as well.
Less than 25 laps to go, and a reminder the next stop on the road to Indy is the Phoenix 200 on Sunday, March 24th, when the Indy Racing League will contest the Desert Mile in Phoenix, Arizona. Join us here.
We have a yellow, Bob.
And a yellow flag is out. We'll tell you about that race in Phoenix later. A car up against the wall in turn number 2.
One of the A.J. Foyt cars up against the outside wall in turn 2. And once again, all 3 A.J. Foyt cars painted up in the black with the orange trim. And once again, we'll wait for the identification of the driver. The driver is climbing out. He is okay, but it is one of the 3.
It is Davey Hamilton. We do that by the process of elimination because the 11 car of Mike Groff and the 41 car of Scott Sharp have gone by. And so Davey Hamilton is the car up against the wall in turn number 2, bringing out our 3rd caution of the day.
Presenting the automotive equivalent of a bull market. It has a 32-valve, 250 horsepower V8 that shattered 47 speed endurance records. It can travel 100,000 miles without a single tune-up. And with an enviable list of luxury amenities like leather seating areas, walnut trim, and CD stereo, a combination of luxury and performance found only in cars costing thousands more, the new Aurora by Oldsmobile could be just the boost the market is looking for. Aurora, an American dream. Test drive the Aurora today at your authorized Oldsmobile retailer and see what happens when you demand better.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. 20 laps to go in the Indy 200 here at Walt Disney World Speedway, presented by Aurora. We are under our third caution of the day. Davey Hamilton making contact with the second turn wall. There is heavy right side damage to the car. However, Davey quickly jumped out of the car and is okay. Both teams, Buzz Calkins and Tony Stewart, have decided that they will not come in for a pit stop during this caution period.
And keep in mind, as they run under yellow in the waning laps of this race, there is one lap car between first and second on the racetrack. That is Guerrero. Now, Guerrero is such a sport, I have to believe that he would move over and not compete too much for that position on the racetrack, let Tony go on by. So this is going to be a that's going to be a trophy dash, because they're still working down there in the second turn area. The car is off the track with a safety crew with a lot of liquid down there, so they have some oil dry, and they're trying to sweep that in to soak up the moisture. So we're probably another 3 or 4, maybe 5 laps before we go back to green racing.
Well, Vince Welch is standing by in the leader's pit.
Buzz Calkins just contacted his crew on the radio, and they were discussing about the amount of fuel remaining, and his crew told him simply, drive it until it stops. They're confident they have enough, but just in case, they wanted to let him know, drive it till it stops, and they hope it stops in victory lane.
While we are under caution here, while the cleanup continues in turn 2, Donald Davidson will run down the standings.
Okay, Bob, this is only the third yellow that we've had all day. We have Buzz Calkins in the lead, now completing 181 laps, and Tony Stewart, of course, is second. 2.4 seconds is the gap, but of course that is under yellow with Roberto Guerrero between them. In third place, 2 laps down, is Robbie Buell. In fourth place is Michele Alboreto. Roberto Guerrero is fifth. Sixth is Scott Sharp. Seventh is Eddie Cheever, who started dead last. And eighth is Johnny O'Connell. Ninth is Mike Groff. 10th, showing on the monitor, is Davey Hamilton, but we know that he's out of the race. So in just a few seconds, Lynn St. James is going to go to 10th place. And in a couple of laps' time, the one remaining car, John Paul Jr., will go to 11th. And I'd just like to say what a delight that it's been down here. I don't remember ever going through a pit area or a garage area that was this happy. Everybody was greeting everybody else like old friends. The camaraderie between the crews, and a lot of people visiting here, a lot of dignitaries from the racing world. And in fact, there are today 8 Indianapolis 500 winners on the grounds, including 2 4-time winners. A.J. Foyt is here as an entrant. Johnny Rutherford is here in official capacity, driving the pace car. Al Unser is here. Bobby Unser and Danny Sullivan are both 500 winners who are here to do television commentary. Ari Lyondike was a participant in the race, and also coming to have a look, Gordon Johncock and Jim Rathman.
And let's check in at the south end of the pit area, where Mike King is stationed in Tony Stewart's pit.
As soon as that yellow flag came out, an interesting comment by one of the Team Menard crew members. He stood up on the wall, he turned around and he said, "This kid can win this thing, boys." So they had no inclination to bring him in, obviously. And, you know, Gary Lee has seen Tony Stewart in this situation so many times before. He is one guy who is simply used to a 15-lap shootout type situation. We'll see if the sprint, midget, and silver crown experience takes over here.
Any race driver will say, I'd rather be lucky than good. And this yellow flag was a bit of luck for Mr. Stewart. 1 lap to go. Dwayne Sweeney indicating the furled flag. 1 more lap will turn them loose. And to repeat once again, Stewart is in second. There was a lap car between first and second. Roberto Guerrero in the Pagan Racing entry is that lap car, but I would guess that he will quickly get out of the way, vacate that position on the racetrack, and let Tony set sail for Buzz, and we are going to have us a shootout, guys.
Indeed we are. Let's get set here for the restart. The car's moving slowly now between the first and second turns. Johnny Rutherford in the pace car pulling well ahead of the field as Buzz Calkins apparently again will bring them down for a slow restart. One car between himself and second place Tony Stewart, and when they hit the line and get the green flag, there will be 16 laps to go in the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World presented by Aurora. Here comes Calkins off the third corner, and the green flag is out, and here we go. Stewart looking down low to Roberto Guerrero, but unable to make a pass on him yet as Calkins set sail quickly, just as he has in the previous times.
Brought him down very slowly for the third turn and then really stood on the gas. There's the battle for that position as Guerrero gets a little high in two. Stewart goes on by, but there's a big gap now between first and second. Let's see who has the horsepower. Buzz Calkins leads in his 95 Renard with Ford powered. And Tony Stewart, 95 Lola with Menard power, so different combinations that they are running here this afternoon. Stewart on Goodyears and Buzz Calkins on Firestone.
Well, that Menard engine, which is used to be called the Buick, has in the past had reliability problems. Tony Stewart is certainly hoping that there will be none here in the closing laps. Let's go to the pits and Mike King, who's with car owner John Menard.
John, did you ever envision this rookie having an opportunity to win this race with less than 20 to go?
Well, no, not really. I thought maybe Eddie or Scotty'd be up front. We thought Tony'd run well, but we didn't. Boy, that didn't tell you. I tell you, it just was really impressive.
Tony Stewart, of course, tested for A.J. Foyt here at Walt Disney World Speedway, but they could not come to an agreement, and so Tony Stewart obligated himself to running at least a partial Busch Grand National schedule this year in stock cars. But then Menard came along and offered him the third car here at Walt Disney World and offered him also cars at the other Indy Racing League events. Tony said yes. Boy, he is showing. Oh, we have a crash down in turn one.
Two cars involved. One is Cheever. And another Foyt car, the 41 car.
Looks like it's Scott Sharp.
Scott Sharp in 41, Eddie Cheever, and this is the same place where Eddie got in trouble yesterday in that final practice session. He got together yesterday with Hearn in practice. This time it's Scott Sharp.
And a really strange situation. The crash truck came out so quickly that Tony Stewart had nowhere to go. He had to squeeze in a very narrow opening between Scott Sharp's crash car and the wall. And my question is, did he run over some debris that might cause a problem here in the closing laps? I was watching, by the way, those two cars go into corner number one. It was simply a matter of touching wheels. Eddie Cheever and Scott Sharp touched wheels going into turn number one as they battled. Both cars shut up the racetrack and hit the outside retaining wall. And you're right, it's the same place where Cheever had a problem yesterday.
We look ahead to this restart. The last time we had the restart, Tony got jammed up behind Guerrero because Buzz Calkins sets the pace in the restart. Now there's no one between first and second. He can stay right with him. Maybe again, luck playing a role. And, well, the yellow remains out and the cleanup continues.
And we have now 10 laps to go in this inaugural Indy Racing League event.
Race fans, the Indy Racing League is off to a fast start with the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Get on board with racing's newest league, the Indy Racing League, with all new officially licensed and logoed merchandise. The 1996 catalog features a variety of apparel and collectibles from the Indy Racing League and the always popular Indy 500, along with select items for you Brickyard 400 fans. Call now and receive absolutely free your 1996 catalog. Operators are standing by. Call 1-800-955-INDY. 1-800-955-INDY.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Welcome back to the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway, presented by Aurora. 9 laps to go under caution. We are cautioned because of a crash involving Eddie Cheever and Scott Sharp. Both drivers got out of their cars. Cheever was the last to get out. He was helped out of the car, but apparently is not seriously injured.
Well, this is the time when the leader is saying, drive that pace car a little faster. Let's get this thing over. In second place, Tony is saying, hey, Johnny Rutherford, slow that pace car down. Go as slow as you possibly can. Tony was very lucky there. As you indicated, Bob, the emergency crews got out so fast it pushed Tony all the way up to the wall, and it looked like he may have clipped some debris.
Let's check in with Buzz Calkins pits. Vince Welsh is stationed down there.
Standing by with Buzz Calkins, crew chief Steve Rittenauer, who's got the headset on. How's Buzz reacting in the car to all this excitement down the stretch?
He's been real calm about the whole thing. You'd never know it's his first time the way he's reacting to it. He's just like we were in testing, just cool and calm.
He's really avoided some trouble out there on the track.
Yes, he's really been using his head, and that's the key to doing this deal here, is just staying out of trouble.
Might be a rookie, but driving like a veteran today. Buzz Calkins nearing the end of his first victory in the Indy style racing.
Did Tony Stewart run over debris, and did it harm his car? Mike, what's the answer to that question?
Just asked John Menard that question. He said that they weren't that worried about the debris, but he was pushed so far up the track that he did, in fact, brush the wall, trying to avoid the safety truck. He said, his quote was, "We don't know what we got," but they're not going to bring him in. Tony says the car is still handling just fine.
Well, he'll be checking that very careful here under caution to determine whether there is a problem, and when that green flag comes out, we will see if Tony Stewart can catch Buzz Calkins. But we're not going to have very much time to race here because only 7.5 laps remain right now, and there is still a lot of cleanup to do in turn 1. Again, the next stop on the road to Indy is the Phoenix 200 Sunday, March 4th, when the Indy Racing League will contest the Desert Mile in Phoenix. Join us here on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network for the qualification wrap-up on Saturday, and then live flag to break coverage on Sunday, March 24th. Broadcast time 4 o'clock Eastern, the Phoenix 200, March 24th. And for those who would like to follow the Indy Racing League to Phoenix, there are still tickets available. Call 602-252-2227 for ticket information.
One emergency truck remains on the scene, Bob. The others have left. They are rolling to their position, so we could have a start in another couple of laps. We do have some stay dry up there on the high side of the racetrack. The track is now clear. The last truck pulls away, and we are going to have us a chance to see what these two young Tigers have to show. And we'll see if there's anything wrong with that number 20. It was interesting. I talked to Larry Curry, the team manager for Menard, a couple of days ago, and he said that Cheever was complaining that his car was a bit twitchy. And I said, well, naturally, Tony Stewart wouldn't complain because everything he's ever driven is twitchy. Sprint cars, midgets, Silver Crown cars, he knows no different than that. So we'll see if anything's wrong with that car because he has a good shot now at Calkins. Nobody stands between first and second.
Third position belongs to Robbie Buell, and fourth is Michele Alboreto. Fifth is Roberto Guerrero. Sixth place is Mike Groff. Seventh place, Johnny O'Connell. Eighth is Lynn St. James. Ninth is Eddie Cheever, although he is out of the race, as is the 10th place car being shown on our scoring monitor as Scott Sharp. Both of those, of course, will move down, and moving up into ninth position in a few more laps would be John Paul Jr. And it looks like that we are set to go back to racing as Johnny Rutherford has pulled the pace car off of the track. Here we go. When they come by, it'll be completion of lap 194. 6 to go. The green is out, and Buzz Calkins is challenged by Tony Stewart into turn number 1. Stewart is right there within a car length. They go around the first turn. They run over that oil dry that was put down by the crash, but no problem. Stewart closes in turn number 2, trying to take the lead from Buzz Calkins, but can't do it in 2. They head for 3.
Obviously, that car is okay after the brush with the wall. Again, a car length off of 3, down the front straightaway. The fans on their seats, fists raised in the air. They are cheering. Both these guys are 24 years of age. Both these guys originally started in go-karts. I wonder if they've actually competed against each other in go-karts many years ago.
It's about a 5-car length advantage for Buzz Calkins in turn number 2 once again. Tony Stewart is stalking him. This will complete lap number 196. We've got 4 to go, and Calkins is doing a tremendous job holding off the challenge of Stewart.
Status quo, about 6-7 car lengths now off the corner down that long straightaway they call the mid-straight here in Orlando into the 8.5-degree banking of turn 2. They work off the banking down the shorter straightaway into the 7-degree banking of turn 3. And again, it's Calkins in control by now about, 7-8 car lengths.
I don't think Tony Stewart has what it's going to take to get by Buzz Calkins. He has not shown that in the last few laps since this green came out here. He has stayed back about 6 or 7 car lengths, and in fact may be losing just a little bit of ground now as the 198th lap is about to be completed. 2 to the checkered.
They've sold lots of souvenirs here at Disney World. What they really haven't sold many of are seat cushions, because these fans have not used them this afternoon. They have been on their feet from start to finish. They're on their feet now. They're cheering. And right now, pick your favorite driver. Only, about 10, 12 car lengths, but it looks like Buzz has him covered right now. And there is the white flag, Bob.
Dwayne Sweeney waves the white flag, and there's less than a lap to go now for Buzz Calkins from Denver, Colorado, who is about to win here at Orlando. Tony Stewart will not be a factor. He continues to lose ground. Here they come off of corner number 3. The checkered flag waves, and Buzz Calkins has won the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World Speedway, presented by Aurora, with about a second victory over Tony Stewart. So Buzz Calkins wins, and now on turn number 2, Stewart drives up alongside. Buzz gives him the thumbs up, and we have an exciting conclusion to this event. It's won by Buzz Calkins. Let's go to Vince Welsh.
I'm standing down here with Brad Calkins, Buzz's father, and Brad, congratulations. What an outstanding win.
Thank these guys on this team, I'll tell you. They're the greatest.
Just a moment ago, you said I would never have believed it. I couldn't believe it.
Wouldn't have believed it. Never would have believed it. I'm speechless. My knees are weak. I'm so happy for Buzz. He's worked so hard for this, and family supported him, and Ken Anderson came in, and Kenny's just, what a pro, I'll tell you. There's nobody like him.
Buzz Calkins is the winner, and now let's go to Mike King.
Larry Curry, I tell you got to be happy with this. You said you were happy when John Menard decided to go with a rookie instead of another veteran driver. What about the job he did today?
Hey, this guy did a great job, but I got to thank this guy. I called him about 2 weeks ago and said, I want to do this thing with Tony Stewart. And he was up all night, and I was up all night, and he says, well, you think it's the right thing to do, let's do it. But without John's vote of confidence, he isn't driving the car, and the kid just did one whale of a job today.
John, your reaction to his finish here today?
Oh, we're just so happy for Tony. He just did a great job, and we're happy for the team. We got a great group of guys, and to convert us over from the super speedway to 1 mile oval thinking has been a real test here, and I think we got it reasonably close to figured out. We got to just get one more notch figured out, and then we'll be in the winner's circle.
Team manager Larry Curry and team owner John Menard, 2 very happy guys.
And now victory lane begins to form at the start-finish line. The top 3 drivers have wheeled their machines here. They have stopped them, and they're about to get out, but the focus of attention is 24-year-old Buzz Calkins from Denver, Colorado, who has won this race. Here's Jackaroo.
The first winner of an Indy Racing League event at the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World, and the crew are trying to take all the paraphernalia out. He's going to stretch out after 200 miles of competition. The Bradley Motorsports efforts. Buzz, we got to get the helmet off because you've got to celebrate. You're the winner of the first Indy 200 at Walt Disney World, and it wasn't an easy one. It wasn't very easy. You had fuel concerns. You had the hot breath of Tony Stewart and a 1 mile oval. What do you think was the turning point for you?
Well, basically, I wanted just to get out in front and try to make as few mistakes as possible. I knew being my first race that I didn't have a lot of experience in wheel, just the overall race strategy. So I wanted to try to take my time and do everything and just not make any mistakes.
Let's help him get his helmet off and his balaclava. Now we can see the face, and it's got to be a very important moment for both you and your dad. We talked to your dad, Gary Gerald did, and he was very emotional about this.
I'm still emotional.
And Mickey's here to give you the congratulations. And what are your impressions of the Indy Racing League right now?
I don't know. Right now, I think you can see from the race and from the fans that came out that this series is definitely going. I think it put on a good show today. There's a full field, a lot of competitive cars, so I think we're going to see them for years to come.
Okay, you've won the Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Where are you going to go to now?
I'm going to Indy.
Let's go back to the tower.
Somehow you just had to think that he had rehearsed that line.
That question was coming.
Yeah, and you knew what the answer was going to be. Great job by Buzz Calkins. Let's go down to Vince Welsh. He's standing by with Tony George.
Thank you very much, Bob. And Tony, you've got to just be thrilled to death with the outcome of this event today.
Yeah, Vince, it's been a great weekend. A lot of anticipation leading up to it. And, gosh, it went off so great.
You develop this series for opportunities just like what was presented to Buzz Calkins, and he shows the capabilities that these young guys who normally wouldn't get an opportunity have.
I'm so proud of all these guys out here. They've showed that they're real professionals and they deserve a shot. They got it. And, you know, that's what it's all about, the IRL.
Thank you, Tony. Tony George, president of the Indianapolis 500 Motor Speedway, and, of course, the man that brought the Indy Racing League to reality.
Indeed, and two young drivers battle it out here this afternoon on the 1 mile tri-oval for the victory. We've already talked to Buzz Calkins. Let's talk to Tony Stewart.
Well, Larry Curry came down here and put the big bear hug on him, and I tell you what, it would be hard to imagine that he would be any happier had he won the race. Tony, tell us about it.
I tell you what, this race was great. You know, the whole weekend we've never experienced what a loose race car was like, and I think I found it about a dozen times during the race. I really got the car sideways a couple times coming off at 2, and you know, I can't express how happy we are. This team has done a fabulous job of getting this car comfortable for me. You know, for Team Menard to give me such a comfortable race car, it just shows how good this team is and how strong they are.
You were a little uptight before the start of this one, had some of the nerves, but once you strapped in, it looked like you settled down.
It's just another race. I found out that, you know, the big variables that you have to watch out for are turbulent air and the change in the race car as the fuel load burns off. But the nice thing is, you know, Eddie Cheever and Scott Brayton warned me of what would happen and, you know, gave me some insight and told me what to look for, so it helped us out a bunch.
Talk us through those last couple of laps. Did you have enough, or did you just simply not have enough to close it on Calkins?
Well, I mean, the first 2 laps we were right there with him, but dirty air is so critical here. You know, when you get in behind a guy like that and you go into the corner with him, you really lose a lot of grip. And if I couldn't get through the corner, if I lost my momentum in the corner, he just pulled away down the straightaway. But, you know, for a rookie driver, we're real happy for second.
Tony Stewart, a rookie who had a little fun today here at the Walt Disney World Speedway as he finishes second.
Not quite as much fun as he would like to have had, but he finished 0.8 of a second behind the winner here in Orlando, Buzz Calkins.
Indy Racing League fans, here is your chance to be a part of the 1997 Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. It's the ultimate fairy tale. Exciting Indy Racing League action and Walt Disney World. Be there for the return of the Indy Racing League in sunny Orlando, Florida. Stay at one of Disney's magical resort hotels with free transportation to and from the race. Imagine joining thousands of race fans in the heart of Disney's 8 theme and water parks. You can have it all. January 25, 1997. The Indy 200 at Walt Disney World. Call 1-800-822-INDY for your ticket order form. 1-800-822-INDY.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. Welsh, Mike. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with Vince Welsh, Mike King, Gary Lee, and Donald Davidson at Walt Disney World Speedway, where the Indy 200 by Aurora has been completed. Buzz Calkins, the winner, finishing 0.8 of a second ahead of Tony Stewart. Third place finisher, Robbie Buell, with a great performance. He was 2 laps down. He's standing by with Vince.
Just took a handshake of congratulations from Tony George, and Robbie, congratulations on a 3rd place finish and a very solid run today.
Yeah, I really owe all the thanks to Greg Beck and his whole team and the Zuni group. Our plan when we came here was just to be running at the end, and if things worked that we're in the top 10, great, top 5, great, top 3, better yet. And I really had a good car. Greg and I seem to have a good understanding of where we want to go with things, and I had adjustability in the car as conditions changed, so it made for a nice race from a driver's standpoint.
This is a great learning experience and stepping stone, the first race in this Indy Racing League event.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in Indy cars before. I've been in Indy Lights for a couple years, and I never seem to get the opportunity. So hopefully this is mine.
Congratulations, Robbie. Robbie Buell, 3rd place at the Indy 200, and we'll now go to Mike King.
Michele Alboreto finishes 4th in his Indianapolis type car debut, and tell us about the run. You've got to be happy with the top 5.
Yes, I'm quite happy because I work hard to prepare this race. Unfortunately, during the second part of the race, I have a boost leak, so I lose power, but to be in the first speedway, I'm happy.
Michele Alboreto finishes 4th here today, says he's happy. Was a little bit down on boost, but very happy with the 4th place finish.
Well, the ceremony continues down on the start-finish line as Buzz Calkins has jumped in a convertible, and his passenger sitting up on the back is none other than Mickey Mouse. And we will have the complete rundown from Donald Davidson in just a moment. You're listening to live coverage of the Indy 200.
The legend begins as Major League Auto Racing comes to the entertainment capital of the world, and you're invited to the grand opening celebration. Be a part of auto racing history as Las Vegas Motor Speedway proudly presents its inaugural event, the Las Vegas 500, for the Indy Racing League on Sunday, September 15th. See the cars and stars of the all-new Indy Racing League at the world's premier motorsports entertainment complex. Tickets go on sale March 1st. Phone 702-644-4444 for ticket info. Sunday, September 15th. Don't miss the Indy Racing League at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.
From Orlando, this is the Indy Racing League. The very first race in the Indy Racing League has been completed. Buzz Calkins, the winner. Tony Stewart, less than a second behind in second position. Finishing in fifth spot was Roberto Guerrero. Here's Mike.
Roberto Guerrero can't help but be just a little bit disappointed with the way he finished here today. He thought he would be able to run up front, and Roberto, that just wasn't the case in the late going.
That's right. It started from the beginning. We in the first set of tires we got very loose halfway through the run, and then I kind of overcompensated after that, and then I understeer like a pig the rest of the race. So it was very frustrating. Apart from that, there was some on the pit next to it. They left the tire out, and anyway, I couldn't get to my spot, and we couldn't reach with the hose, and we had to bring it back, and we wasted a lot of time on that pit stop, and then I stalled it. So it just wasn't the best. At the same time, I'm not happy, but I'm sure there are a lot of those guys that are less happy than we are. At least the car is in one piece. We get a few points, and we'll go get him at Phoenix.
I was going to say, now preparations begin for Phoenix, and certainly, as you said, the equipment is in good shape, so are you. So the only real problem you have to work out is worrying about the guy next to you in that pit not having that tire out there.
We got to get all those little things organized, and we'll be okay in Phoenix.
Roberto Guerrero finishes fifth, a bit disappointed, but then again, he's kind of happy about some things as well.
Good show for Roberto in fifth spot. Brake Parts Incorporated and their Raybestos brand of brakes is an official sponsor of the Indy Racing League, and they have initiated a new season-long award sponsorship. Raybestos paying $10,000 in prize money to the highest finishing rookie in each of the 96 Indy Racing League events. And needless to say, the individual who picks up that $10,000 today is the winner of the race, Buzz Calkins. But just before we give you the official rundown of how they finished here, we would like to remind you that you're listening to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network, and the Indy Racing League would like to thank the following sponsors for their support: Aurora by Oldsmobile, the official pace car of the Indy Racing League, and the presenting sponsor of today's race, Valvoline, the official motor oil and fuel supplier of the Indy Racing League, Featherlight Trailers, official trailer of the IRL, and True Value Hardware, the official hardware of the Indy Racing League, and the title sponsor of the True
Bull Market. It has a 32-valve, 250 horsepower V8 that shattered 47 speed endurance records. It can travel 100,000 miles without a single tune-up. And with an enviable list of luxury amenities like leather seating areas, walnut trim, and CD stereo, a combination of luxury and performance found only in cars costing thousands more, the new Aurora by Oldsmobile could be just the boost the market is looking for. Aurora, an American dream. Test drive the Aurora today at your authorized Oldsmobile retailer and see what happens when you demand better.
Back at the Orlando Walt Disney World Speedway. And by the way, stations, we will be leaving the air at 20 minutes till the hour. That's about 3.5 minutes from right now. Donald Davidson will run down the finish order.
Okay, Bob, the time of the race was 1 hour and 33 minutes and 30 seconds, an average speed of 128.325, held down because of the yellows. Buzz Calkins, the winner, with a .866 second victory over Tony Stewart. Third is Robbie Buell, who was 2 laps down, as was Michele Alboreto in fourth. The remainder is fifth, Roberto Guerrero, followed by Mike Gruff, Johnny O'Connell, Lynn St. James, John Paul Jr., and Eddie Cheever in 10th. These cars not running at the end, followed by Scott Sharp, Davey Hamilton, Stan Wattles, Ari Lyondike, Scott Brayton, Stefan Gregoire, Buddy Lazier, the pole sitter, Johnny Parsons, Richie Hearn, and David Kudrave in 20th position.
That's the official rundown of the initial race in the Indy Racing League. And now we head for Phoenix on March the 24th. Gary Lee will be anchoring that broadcast. And Gary, we send you to Phoenix with a lot to look forward to.
Well, I tell you what, Disney World providing some very big shoes to fill when we go back to Phoenix. Of course, it's tradition. Spring Indy cars in Phoenix out in the desert Southwest. And it's always a great venue. And Buddy Job has a fine facility out there. So we're off to a great start. We can just keep the momentum going.
And a great race here today. Tony Stewart with an outstanding performance, but not quite outstanding enough, as the real star of this show was Buzz Calkins, who drove it to victory here today.
Well, of course, when they get to Phoenix, young Tony has some miles on that racetrack in midgets and Silver Crown cars, so he may have the advantage on that particular mile over some of the other drivers.
That is a very good point. So that race comes up on March the 24th. The 1996 Indy Racing League season ends with the Indianapolis 500 on May the 26th. And then the 1996-97 Indy Racing League schedule begins on August the 18th with the running of the True Value 200 at New Hampshire International Speedway, and then Las Vegas, the 500-kilometer race there on September 15th. Gary, thanks for your help.
It's been a pleasure, Bob.
Well, coverage of the inaugural running of the Indy 200 from Walt Disney World Speedway, presented by Aurora, has been brought to you by Aurora, proud to be the official pace car of the Indy Racing League. By Ray Bestis, with safety there is no compromise. Insist on Ray Bestis. And by Valvoline. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network Executive Committee is Bill Donaldson, Chris Duffy, and Tony George. The network coordinator is Kurt Hunt. Our affiliate coordinator is Dawn Baer. Our technical director, Tom Alabrandy. RF operations by Tom Alabrandy II. Master control by Chris Pollock. Production assistance by John Acton and Steve Winkle. Producer is John Royer. Thanks to our announcing staff here today, Gary Lee, Donald Davidson, Mike King, and Vince Welsh. Reminding you that we will also have coverage of the Phoenix 200 on Sunday, March the 24th, with a qualifying show the day before. Our congratulations to the winner here in Orlando today, Buzz Calkins, winning the initial race in the Indy Racing League. This is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Radio Network.